Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to the Thursday morning edition of Second Breakfast. I've got DM Bloodworth here in the wings. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. A little bummed last night. I had a great video. I'm recording it, and then it goes bloop out of memory. And I had just ordered a memory card for the boy, like little bit less than a week ago, and I noticed how much memory cards had gone up in price. The last one I ordered, I go through one a year, was like 25 bucks. I go to find the exact same one in my Amazon, buy again, 50
Mm-hmm.
bucks.
Yeah.
What the hell happened? It's a tiny little piece of freaking metal and crystal, this tiny. And I'm like, I probably don't need one. I'll wait. And then I sure as shit, I needed one too. Um,
Yeah.
so the video that I
Well,
recorded was half done, and I couldn't even delete it because there was no room to move it from the file location to the trash bin.
right. Well, that's weird.
Yeah, it's like,
Have you cleaned out your trash and
oh
made
yeah, I
sure
did
that
all
things
this.
are double deleted
I
and
did all the stuff. There's just
you
no
deleted your
room.
old videos that there's no reason to archive them or whatever?
I archive every video I make. I save. Every video except live streams we have saved since day one, which is like probably 1,500 videos.
Well,
And
that's eating up a lot of your memory there.
well, they're all saved on memory cards,
Oh,
and
I
I've
see.
got
I
like
see.
one
Yeah.
one per year because I record from my tablet. Because
Right.
a regular camera, just the one we have, we've got two now, and they both suck. And it's
Right.
just easier. I can just push a couple buttons, the tablet's right there. We're just doing this stuff. It's
Mm.
I don't need anything special. I don't really need to zoom in or any of that crap. It was fun
Right.
when my wife was doing it, but her hands are just she can't hold the camera steady, and even with a
Right.
tripod, it's just a pain in the ass. But I'll have it out by Monday, and it's a good one. What's up, Chris? It's going to ruffle a couple feathers, but what the hell, right? Um,
Right.
we do some things really, really that don't make any sense to me, knowing what I know,
Mm.
and I don't want to talk too much about it because it'll ruin it. Squirrel, what's up, man? So, what are you up to this morning?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm just playing a little World of Warcraft right now, getting ready for work in a few minutes, and then I will. I did two videos. I made the one that I already uploaded, and then the other one is going to upload tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Cool.
So I figured I got my
What's up,
first one.
Hungar?
I did my Hyperborea video this morning
Mm-hmm.
From CNY Con.
Saw that one.
And yeah, so I put that one up this morning. I was looking, every time I look at like Hyperborea and everything, and really since the convention and everything, seeing how good it is, and I think of both DM James and I think of you because I know that you're not crazy about the world setting.
Yeah,
You
it's too historical fantasy for me.
well, it's not but it's I would take, and I'm going to continue doing that. I would take Hyperborea, the game system, and
Mm-hmm.
transport it um, to Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age,
Mm-hmm.
and put it there. All right. That way you have your historical, entities and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes more sense. They're not transplanted to another world, another plane kind of thing. And you can still integrate all of that. You can still integrate all of that, Ashton Clark Smith stuff. You can still
Which I've
integrate.
yet to read. I need to be able to buy one of the books, one of the
Yeah.
omnibuses, if you will. But they're kind of expensive for some reason.
But do you
He's a little.
have the Hyperborean? Do you have Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, or
No, I gave it away.
oh, Because I mean, it is Gonzo. It is right up your alley. It's a combination of fantasy
Like I've told
and
DM James,
sci-fi.
when a game says it's sci-fi fantasy, I expect the players to be able to start with some element of sci-fi in their on their sheet. You know, they're just D&D characters in a world that could ostensibly have no sci-fi in it if the GM says no. If you notice,
Yep.
like with B&B, you can
Yeah.
start out as a cyborg, as a robot.
Yeah.
You can start out with some sci-fi in your hands, but all the sci-fi stuff is in the DM book, and that
And
just
the
means that
adventures. And the adventures. There are,
right. But
you
the
know,
players get
because
nothing.
yeah, because all of the sci-fi stuff is ancient technology,
Sure.
and even in low-level adventures, you kind of stumble upon that ancient technology. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So it
you can if the DM says no, or I'm going to make you
well,
wait.
if you're running like I said, if you're doing like the adventures, I'll show
Mhm.
you two adventures where it plays, and they're early adventures, right?
Mhm.
So you have so this one in particular. So you have the late. I know I don't know how to flip, but
No
you
worries.
have the late Trapper's Lament.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this here is like a Viking. You start off in like a Viking setting, and you are trying to track down where this trapper who is supposed to turn over these ermine furs to your ship so that you can bring them back to the main city to sell off. And so you're trying
Mhm.
to figure out where did he go. And so you see kind of like some Cthulhu-esque kind of stuff thrown in here,
Mhm.
but and spoiler to anyone who I am about to run through this because I'm going to start a campaign, like a mini campaign, in this here. But I mean, I don't know if you can see it,
Mhm.
but there you
Okay.
go. All right.
Mhm.
So, in a first and second level adventure, they are going to come across both zombies and computers. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
you have a little bit of both. Zombie weasels, as a matter of fact. Now here, um, now here in another. So this is Rats in the Walls. Very very famous H.P.
Mhm.
Lovecraft, story,
Mhm.
and this one here, I'm almost certain there's technology in this one as well, and what's more, it's more occult and Cthulhu,
Mhm.
but I'm certain there's technology in this. Um,
Right, but is there technology the players can walk out with?
I
See, that's my problem. At least
I'm
with
well, they do have like laser guns and things like that.
the simple stuff,
I
even a
mean,
freaking a tricorder, a communicator, hell, even a flintlock pistol is more than a lot of GMs can handle. They're just like, no, I can't mix my peanut butter and chocolate together, and I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. But if you're
yeah.
gonna out yourself as a sci-fi fantasy, I mean, Thunder the Barbarian, right? One of the
Mhm.
most classic sword and sorcery science fantasy stories. He starts out with his sun sword, okay, which is ostensibly a lightsaber, and it doesn't harm the story at all. And he's often, disarmed, or it's not the solution to the problem. It's not the game breaker that everybody just assumes it's going to be. It's just
Right.
another tool.
Yeah.
And even having a flintlock, a matchlock, hell, even a 38 Smith and Wesson with 12 rounds is a big deal, but it's not a game breaker. It's only a
Yeah.
game breaker if you want your player characters to die. I mean,
Yeah.
or suffer. I don't care what they do. They could roll nothing but crits for the entire 12-year campaign. It wouldn't do anything to break the game. I can
Right.
I can always come up with another challenge. I can make challenges that come at them, sideways that have nothing to do
Yeah.
with combat.
Well, you could. I mean, if you're game mastering it, you can always include it. And
Exactly, exactly.
if
It's just
if you have a game master that is open to allowing for it, then
mm,
you're there. I
sure,
mean,
sure.
him.
And the problem is I've got 300 other games that I can do that with without having to
Mm,
buy a new game, and I've already done that. I was
yeah,
doing that with D&D back in 81. Doing the same thing that this game
yeah,
does with my world, my rules, my peoples, my cultures that were
mm,
nothing like Vikings and Mongols and all that stuff that to me just kind of like unimmerses me, if that's a word. Where because
yeah.
now I'm dealing with peoples of Earth. I want to go to like strange new worlds that never heard of Earth.
Right.
D&D worlds or sci-fi worlds that are you know a challenge to come up with and create and then
Mm,
try to get the players into. But then I find that most players don't give two shits about the world to begin with. All they want is the next room with monsters to kill. um, so it's a catch
yeah.
22. You can work real
Yeah.
hard, but then if the players don't invest themselves in the world, and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I'm just like, it's another town. So what? Why do I care? Does it have something, or some people that I can get, invested in? Because that's like for me. I love the the PC NPC interactions that aren't combat. Where
Right.
you can make a friend or an enemy um, that they care about. Because the DM, we're supposed to care about the player characters, right?
Right.
Well, the players should care about the NPCs, but when they just view them as cardboard cutouts and potential thorns in their side, someone who's going to stab them in the back at the first opportunity because that's all they're there for, that that ruins the game for me. These are real people.
Mm,
Act like they're real people. Don't just take the quest and run off into the woods looking for the MacGuffin.
right.
Have a conversation.
Hmm.
Get to know these people. You don't act like that in the real world, do you?
What, use
You know,
people? Sure, you use people. I'm not kidding.
no, I mean, yeah. Do you
Yeah.
ever talk? Do you ever talk to specific cashiers at the stores you go to?
No, I hate people that do that, especially if I'm behind them in line. I mean, I'll say hello, I'll be pleasant,
Okay.
but I'm there to check out and move on. I get annoyed when they start chit chatting, and I know people behind me get annoyed when they start chit chatting. It's like, no, 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 you move it on. So you
Okay.
know my bank
Gotcha.
teller, if there's nobody else there, sure. You know what I'm saying? But if there's, yeah, if there's other people in line, move your ass out that line as fast as you possibly can. You know, uh, just be pleasant. Hi, how are you? Good to see you again. Ring my ass up and let's get me out of here. Um, so, but in gaming, I mean, that's why I think that, and looking at all of these different videos coming out with like D&D BX and all of these different hints and tips and
Mhm.
forgotten knowledge, or forgotten elements of the old school. And to be honest with you, a lot of players, even old school players, 35, 40 years later, we're not using those things that used to be commonplace. So excuse me. So with the new campaign that I am starting now earlier on
Mhm.
July 14th, I strongly encourage you to maybe not at first level because you might not have the money to do so, but you know you should be hiring hirelings. You should be hiring your hirelings and bringing porters or torch bearers or whatever along with you.
Mhm.
uh
Yeah, absolutely.
you should
What,
be.
what what about like war dogs, guard dogs, things like that?
Well, yeah, well, once you have reasons to have them, sure. Yeah, you could bring a war dog if again you have the ability to control one, to purchase
So,
one,
George,
to do all of that. Absolutely. Now you might not be getting what I would call expert henchmen. You might not be able to afford them until you're like second level, or by third level, a party should be should be working towards buying themselves a home, whether it's on the outskirts of the city or
you'd be amazed at how many people I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years that absolutely refuse to do things like that. There's like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to the next town. We're going to the next adventure.
yeah,
Li-
no, no, I'm
we're
big
saving
on
our money
having
for magic items and
no.
levels,
My
or
AD&D, the
things like that.
AD&D campaign that you were in, although it
Mhm.
might have been after you were there, they
It was.
had already purchased their chateau.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had already
A lot of PCs just want to be on the road, and they don't realize how absolutely miserable that is.
nope,
I used to.
they had their chateau. They had a copper mine that they had liberated and negotiated with.
Mhm.
They had hired miners to go there and to extract copper. I think if I remember, they were extracting the equivalent of like 600 gold pieces a month. All
That's
right,
actually
from
pretty.
there.
That's massive.
Yeah,
Um,
they were doing that. They were in their chateau. They had, they had cooks. They had a scribe that was keeping journals, and they had all of that stuff, in their chateau. Now, yes, you guys went adventuring, and you went adventuring, and you were like 18 months away because you traveled the full breadth away, and then you returned,
mhm,
eventually. But the point was that yes, you were adventuring, but all of that was still running in the background. That was still going on. If your character died, you had a henchman that you acquired at fifth level that would
mhm,
have been that, boom, you're in now. You know what I'm saying? And
mhm.
that henchman would have been by that point like third level or something, like
Could be.
always like
Could.
3 levels below you, where they could pick up kind of where you left off, kind of thing. So that's all in place. It was in place for that campaign, and it will be in place as early on as you guys look to initiate it, starting with those menial task henchmen, or hirelings, I should say.
I want to address this comment by Cold Iron. Forced
Yeah.
immersion is the worst. If they don't have a clue or a quest, well met and farewell. How do you know that they don't have a clue or a quest if you don't
Mm.
interact with them? And do you expect them to just go, "Here is your quest. Here is your clue"? There,
Mm.
I mean, come on. I mean, if that's what you want, maybe a video game would be better. So you could just hit the button and move the thing along, so you don't even have to read that. Uh, the the GM is there to have some fun too, and sometimes playing the parts of the different NPCs and like sneaking a clue in there if you pay attention, as opposed to going, "Here is clue." You know what I
Mm.
mean? I'm not sure exactly if
Yeah.
you realize how that comes across. It's like that's not role playing. That's just
Yeah.
that's adventure
With
gaming,
with
and move it
yeah.
along. You're boring us. Hurry up and give us something to fight, or
Yeah.
right.
Rumors are the quest. Yeah. Rumors are the quest. You know what? I
I mean,
have.
especially having done this and done all of those things a lot. I realize I'm the exception when it comes to that, oftentimes, but I want to, even as a player, you never know when an NPC might come back to help you or haunt you. And opening up those avenues, there's nothing like having, that story arc where this NPC, either comes in and saves your bacon because you did something cool to them and they're the
Yeah.
cavalry, or they're the bad guy behind the whole freaking thing and you just thought he was the newspaper boy. but he's actually two hobbits in a
Yeah.
trench coat, doing stuff behind your back. And then you get that face off with him and you fight and you do the thing. And then he hits the ring of teleport and disappears right as you're going to, do him in. So now you're, like, oh crap, now he's going to come back and get us at the worst moment. And you've got that tension and that fear and all that suspicion going on. You kind of just like miss out on that, if
Yeah.
you never deal, because uh, a lot of times the like the biggest villains could be someone that you've had a personal relationship, whether good or bad, but where you've had interactions with them to develop these feelings, good or bad. It can't always just be the 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 orc with the higher hit dice is your villain, and it's like the orc gets away. Okay, we'll hunt the orc down. It's not the same. It's not personal. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't bring joy to your heart when over the mountain comes freaking so and so and a couple of freaking rangers who just happen to be in the area, and they see you guys are getting your ass handed to you by a bunch of kobolds or something, and they come in and save the day. And it's someone you already know. It's someone who you can trust, and someone who you now have a better relationship with, and they're now they're not your best friend maybe, but they're like, I'm glad we did the thing, and now these guys saved our asses from what could have been a TPK.
Hey, you remember the orc that Mirador had
Yes, I was
had
thinking
changed the
about that.
alignment, and that was so incredible. There was an orc that at fourth level, they they had charmed or whatever, and he traveled with them until they were like eighth or ninth level. He was with them for he was a companion with you guys for I'd say almost 8 months before Mirador took off his helm of alignment change and let him run wild again.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what it is. Having to interact with them just for the sake of interactions is Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley business. Um, yeah, but you also got to remember there's other people at the table, and not every one of them has the exact same desire. I wish that was the case. Some people in the group might want to do exactly that, even though you don't. You want to be the edge lord in the back corner, that hates everybody and just wants to kill things. That's cool. There's lots of people that are like that, but not every group is like that. And taking the other options for other players away is the fastest way to break up a otherwise good gaming group. What's up, Mobius? There are times, I get it where, I've had a rough week or a rough day, and I just want to get in there and kill some shit and take their stuff, and hopefully find some cool magic items or whatever. But other times, you know, uh, it's time to develop relationships in the world. Unlike Bloodworth, uh, I live in a small town and I've been here for a while, and I know a lot of people now. A lot of people know me even if I don't know them. But every store I go to, they know um, that what kind of guy I am. Always trying to uh, cheer up their day, crack a joke, something like that. Uh, because you never know when you're going to be broken down by the side of the road, and some store owner or some person you bumped into, or a neighbor or whatever, is going to stop and say, "Hey, going to give you a hand." There's a time in my neighborhood. It was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I had walked up somewhere to a store. Hey, what's up, Sean? And I was walking home, and one of my neighbors pulled up on the side of the road. It's like, hey, you want to ride? I'm like, yeah. because they recognized me, they knew me, and that saved a half hour off my day, and I got more stuff done. What's up, Sean? We're just talking NPCs and interactions and things like that, and different games. We weren't specifically talking AD&D, but if you like, I can. You know what? I'll just drop the link. Cold Iron, if you want to pop in and grouch at me, you can as well. Boom. It's a Mobius A Squirrel sitting on the porch painting seems like a fine way. I know. I wish I could do that, but outside it's so freaking hot that even a wet palette won't help. I have knocked off a crap ton. I'm looking at my table, and I can actually see the table now, uh, compared to all the minis that were on here, the scatter terrain and little things. I probably painted up like 50 different little bookshelves and treasure chests and mushrooms and chairs and some creatures. Oh no, AD&D, I'll be on my way. It is uh, my go-to, but uh, Arduin is right around the corner, and they just put up some new stuff in their store, uh, T-shirts and mugs and other things, some new minis, stuff from the convention. Uh, that I'm like, oh, up there went my fun my my liquid cash for the month. I guess I'm gonna go buy some T-shirts, and there's a really cool Frank mug. You know how much Jackie loves bugs. It's a Frank with a freaking giant freaking cannon. He's gonna love that, but he won't know about it until it arrives. I'll surprise him with that. And they're going to be on the show Saturday night, where we're going to talk about uh, the con and some other things that are going on in the background. And I'm looking forward to getting those new minis, the Conan minis, because you guys are all nuts about that shit. Um, see if I can't paint them up to.
I'm going to be back with you in a second.
No worries, man. No worries. I'm
I
just.
was getting ready for
Yeah, I
work.
know you got to get to work. You still have to do the grind, where I get to just freaking goof off all day. Me and Jackie both. He hasn't done a damn thing except his game in 2 weeks. Um, definitely getting the hang of the static. I was meaning to ask about that. I saw OK Miniatures. She was this girl came on the scene years ago. Fantastic. If you like Wylock's Armory and that sort of thing, she made a static grass applicator from scratch. She made a Proxon hot wire cutter from scratch. And just a bunch of other things. She was just like poised to be like huge. I mean, huge. But I think she was getting ready to go to college, and I think she was also not ready to answer personal questions. So she kind of had a certain tomboyish look to her that I think might have been clues and cues to a lot of her audience, and she wasn't ready to you know come out or something like that. Maybe I'm not really sure. She just like, "Oop, I can't handle this. I'm out." But she was going to be huge, and she made one of those things, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" The look of static grass on a mini, where the grass is standing up and looks like grass and not just you know green sawdust glued to your base. Absolutely freaking amazing.
Oh, my clock is like 9 minutes slow on
That's
the
not
wall.
good. That's not good.
Yeah, I'm like,
On time is early, early is late, or however that expression goes. My son hates that, but I'm like, yeah, well, learn it, live it, be it. Your bosses will, and whoever you work for will value that one trait more than almost anything else you can imagine, right?
I still have a half hour to hang out with you though. So
Right, but like
that's okay.
when your students show up early, or if
Mm.
you're an employer and your employees show up early, does that not say something,
Oh yeah. No,
above and beyond?
it's almost required. I used to when I was a union rep in a building. I used to tell teachers because a lot of teachers or teachers assistants or whatever. I mean, they used to show up like a minute before class was supposed to start. I'm like, how do you do that? I just don't get it.
Well, it's because they value their own time more than their job time,
Yeah,
and their job is just a stepping stone.
I mean, even when I was a classroom teacher, the whole time, my first period class, I was in the room like a half an hour just to make sure everything was ready to go, everything was going to work. Um, Especially technology. Holy cow!
Hmm. Hmm. And especially in more serious professions where lives are on the line. The sooner you're on the as
Mm.
soon as you're on the job, the sooner you can start being ready for whatever might come your
Yeah.
way. Like when we would be the equivalent of sitting in a car waiting for someone to
Mm.
show up, so we can start watching them. You never know when they're going to show up early, or when
Yeah.
you might see someone else show up to do the same thing. They're watching them too. Like, holy shit, you see that? We're not the only ones watching so and so, or
In the
or
army,
whatever.
in the army, we were always expected to be at least 45 minutes early, and it would never start until about 2 hours late. You know what I'm saying? It was like
That's
everything that we did was always hurry up and wait. And it became like it became a meme, because
uh
every mission objective changed like 99 times. And that's what we used to call it, change 99.
yeah,
Without
because
fail.
that's the way the rest of the world works. When you
Yeah.
got other people uh, participating and trying to violate that premise. I
Mhm.
mean, I knew people who would be late for everything on purpose just because they knew they could get away with it, and it made them giggle inside to know they were making other people wait, and those people should be
Mhm.
tarred and feathered and run out on a rail. But there are people out there that love to make you wait because it makes them the center of attention.
Mhm.
It seems like, oh, you can't do anything without me, so haha, I'm going to be late and make you all wait, and then when I get there, you're going to be oh so glad to see me. No, no, we're going to be wondering how we can replace you with uh, anything at all. A chimpanzee, a freaking bucket, a step ladder, any way to get you out of the picture because you are unreliable and a selfish prick.
Yeah. So,
Especially women. Oh my God. Get over yourself.
well, back to gaming. So,
Thank you, Squirrel.
I sent you a thing on Discord.
Cool.
If you are going to jump in on it, on the game, I know you're kind of not sure about it.
Yeah, it's all about scheduling.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got
There's
10 players, which is not the
no,
least.
you would be the 10th, but
Okay. Um, I think most of my usual go tos are taken in regards to profession, and I don't like stepping on toes, but I also don't like playing certain professions. Are just they're
that's
just
why
not me.
I gave you three separate ones that are
Hmm.
different, like from what you're used to.
Hmm.
Um, the Bard from Adventure, from the Bard from Adventures Dark and Deep. It's a much different kind of aesthetic to it. Then there's also a Jester, which is cool as hell. Which is cool as hell, and it's not as it's not as it's kind of like a little bit darker than what you would think. It's not like a goofball kind of thing. It's a pretty interesting class. And then there's the Montbank, which is or Montbank, however you say it,
Montebank,
Montbank.
Montebank.
And again, they're all kind of a subclass of Rogue,
Uh-huh.
but they each like so the Montbank is like a street sleight of hand, almost like a three card Monty guy, kind of thing. But they all have what they call like a almost like a fast talk ability, where they
Okay.
can piss people off, and
Oh yeah, I
cause
don't
them
know how to
to,
do that at all.
or they can convince them of other things and everything. That they all have sleight of hand. They all have just a variety of different like kind of skills that I think play well into an urban like setting. But the Bard is really interesting the way they handle it. Um, although Castles and Crusades does a good job with Bard too. Um, the Bard is the worst in D&D.
Well, I think, I think honestly, it's the preconceived notion of what a bard is supposed to do, uh, and then a horrible translation into what they allow the bard to do. Like I was looking at the second edition bard, and I'm like, that's a pretty powerful character, you know, for a human.
Mm-hmm.
With the spell casting, the knowledge, limited fighting, it's some thieving abilities. It's all it's missing is a turn undead ability, and it's like the ultimate multi class
Yeah,
in second edition. In
yeah.
first edition, it was uh, it should have been the beginning of a whole series of prestige classes where you go from one to the other to the other. Um, Within your lifetime if you get lucky, which could have been a lot of fun. What's up, Sean? Welcome to the show.
How's it going?
It's going
Yeah,
okay. As you can see, I've
and
lost my razor.
Hey, you know what? I just speaking of razors, I just watched a video yesterday. You guys use disposables?
no,
No, I use electric.
no. Well, sometimes I use a
I
single.
just saw a way to like make them last even longer, because what happens to them and why they go dull is because they're designed to, but they can be fixed in like nothing flat, and you could keep using them and using them and using them the same way. Like if you use like a single edge, the same thing, you could actually sharpen them really easy, not like a straight razor, like barber style, because if you try to do that, you're kind of dumb. In today's day and age, you're going to hurt yourself with a straight razor, but
No,
with
like
all the
it's
other
about practice.
yeah, right, but I mean, you want to practice on your own face.
Hmm.
That balloon crap, that's just going to piss somebody off when shaving cream is all over the place. I've seen that, but I'm going to post a video in my prepper video thing or whatever if you guys are interested. But it's like a simple thing anybody could do, and any razor you have, except an electric, unfortunately, will last a long ass time. I haven't
My
shaved close
on
to a
not on the
decade.
topic of DD, but my facial growth is so slow. Like this is 5 days of growth, and electric will easily clear it off. So that's why I don't go full hog on razors.
Right. Yeah, I use a single edge Bic that's like a training blade for going to a straight edge, and I just love them. It was like I can never use the double bladed things. They just my skin is too, I cut up like I walk out of there with patches all over my face with that. But this one here only has the single bar that blocks. It's only a single blade, and they're awesome. But I'll usually shave with an electric, and then I'll shave with that
Mm.
to clean
That
it up.
way I'm
Smooth, yeah.
yeah. That way it's just getting nothing but the and that will last, like I could go 3 days without shaving.
Smooth as a baby.
When I do that, I come super super close without cutting me to shreds.
You
And
know, I started shaving when I was like 13,
yeah,
and
so did I. Yeah, I was
I
growing
start
a beard and a mustache at like 13, 14 years old.
yeah, yeah, and I actually shave in the shower with no mirror. I never cut myself ever.
Yeah.
Um, but that's because I've been doing it forever, and there's something about uh, I don't know. I just get lucky, I guess. I mean, when I was a youngster and I used the mirror, I freaking cut the shit out of my face.
Yeah.
Well,
And then I was in a
sadly,
hurry.
I can't look at pictures of myself as a teenager because I had this notion of growing a mustache and I didn't shave the upper lip for years. It looks absolutely ridiculous. So I finally shaved.
Yeah, Jackie's got a mustache. He's looking pretty handsome. He's got a I don't know.
Mustache. I don't know the same sentence. It doesn't.
Yeah, I can never just do the must. I did the mustache when I was in the work for uh, the forestry department. I had just the mustache because it was required. It's kind of like being a fireman; you have to have the mustache. And as a matter of fact, I was issued a mustache when in my first week. And after that, though,
Spirit gum to keep it attached.
just,
I'll be right
yeah.
back.
But after that, into my 20s is just like shave. I mean, I shaved every day for decades, and then when I got to about like 33, I'm like, I'm tired of worrying about this area, so I'm just going to do this and make it a lot easier, and then I can just trim the rest with scissors. But on to gaming stuff, shaving in the sauna, the best. Nice. Haven't done that. I had a blast at uh, North Texas RPG Con and CNY Con, but happy to be back home for a little while. I am freaking jealous as all get out. I couldn't go to any of these cons because Jackie's graduation and everything. Couldn't miss that. But next year, um, there's a good chance that I'm going to be on the road for both of those, and do that. Just I miss it. I used to go to a lot of conventions when I was younger, and I used to do a lot of traveling by bus and train, etc. And I miss that as well. So maybe it's time to get on the road for a little while. When Jackie's in basic or something like that, if we could work it to that, where maybe I could do that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Bad News Bards. Sorry, that's such a great name too, isn't it?
Bad news bards.
Okay.
On the topic of bards, you guys were talking bards when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, yeah, I like the way that Adventures Dark and Deep handles Bard. I like the way that Castles and Crusades handles Bards. AD&D First Edition, it's a wasted experience points. Absolutely waste of experience points. That Kelly's Ranger would have been like 9th or 10th level by the time that we were getting to that tail end of the adventuring, with that party. So yeah, after 2 years and 3 months, his character would have been 9th or 10th level a ranger. Instead, he went bard. So he gave up ranger after about 3 levels. He then followed the fighter line up until level 7. Then he picked up the thief line up until level 7. And then he became Bard 1 and 2. And by the time he was Bard 2, everybody else was, the Paladin was like 9th level, and the Druid was 12th. The
Druids are fast.
Thief was, Druids are as fast as
Clerics or
thieves
thieves.
are. The Thief would have been 12th if he didn't stop after about 10th. So he had left. He had left after about 2 years into the campaign. So, but yeah, the Bard I was like, nah, it's not even. It wasn't even worth it. Like what he gained, I was like, damn, you were like a freaking howitzer as a ranger. You know, especially once they started fighting giants and everything like that, he would have been slaughtering them left and right. So it is what it is. But I was
I
like,
mean, but
no,
that
sir.
all that depends on your point of view on what you want to get out of the game. If you're predicating your fun of the game by being equal level to everybody and always being on par, then maybe. But if you're playing a troop style game and you're always coming in and out with characters and you never know when, I'm joining in today, I've got my bard and you guys are playing X characters, like, oh, the bard will work perfectly.
Right.
So the style of game really will inform the enjoyment of the bard. If you're just looking at, okay, I want to get as powerful as I can, as fast as I can, then yeah, stick with a single class human every day of the week, or a non-human who can get to the higher levels. Like if you're playing 1E, non-humans are capped at 5 on average, with the odd exception. So yeah, but if you're playing a long-term game and you want to get to the power levels, you got to be a single class human anyway.
Or at
And
least if
Druid
you're
Druid is actually surprisingly freaking powerful.
Oh, they're
Just Cal Vanoni, he's running one in my game.
There's a reason they have restrictions.
And another kid in Jackie's game, he was a 3rd level druid, and he was already getting 3rd level spells. I'm like, what the shit? Really?
Yeah. Druids in first ed at 1,
Holy
2, 3.
crap! Oh my god, this is wow.
Plus they start with 2, so you get your wisdom bonus, so a druid can start with 4 spells.
Yeah. So he ended up having 5 first, 2 or 3 second, and 1 or 2 third. I think 1 third. But I'm like, holy crap! That is
Again,
really
if you're only looking at the mechanical power, you're missing the broader picture of druids have excessive restrictions for a reason, and you have to enforce those role playing restrictions. And
absolutely. No metal, which is weird because they could use a scimitar, but that's last time I checked metal.
Well, no, but remember in first ed, scimitar is in the same category as sickle, so it's a sickle.
It was a sickle technically, and
a scimitar.
It was a ceremonial sickle on top of that.
Yeah.
Right, but they're still not, it's not a dagger when you go into combat. It's
it's the exact same stats as a scimitar. It's a sickle or a khopesh. It's not an
Have you ever seen a khopesh sword? Those things are brutal. That's like number 1 sword on my shopping list is a good khopesh sword. Those things are brutal. Those are one of the most effective melee weapons I've ever seen in the right hands. There's so much you can do with them you can't do with anything else.
But druids are pretty powerful, which is why I made them the primary, challenge for you guys in that AD&D campaign. You were facing the dark druids. You were facing the ones that Robert Kuntz made for his adventure. Like, if you ever read that adventure, the Dark Druid, oh my god, that came like after I already started making these druids. Like they were still neutral, but they were closer to neutral evil, and they were basically corrupted by. It was a Greyhawk campaign, so they were basically corrupted by Wastery, and Wastery is like a god of deception and bigotry and all this, and he basically corrupted them into violating the other rules. That's why they were going up, like their hierophants were like 16th level, violating the rules of Greyhawk, where you're only supposed to be like 5 in the world that were 12th level or higher, and they violated that crap, and they were really neutral evil, in the sense of they wanted to wipe out anything that they saw as an abomination of nature. Which happened to be elves, and all the demi-humans were abominations of nature.
I've used shadow druids, the concept, in my games, but not that extreme interpretation. And they weren't corrupted; they were just a different philosophy on what is defined as natural.
So yeah, and they became. I mean, like Shadow said, powerful, like high level druids are freaking kick ass,
Yeah, 100%.
especially when they're
Yeah, I mean,
combat
think about it.
oriented.
I was trying to explain to the kid that had the character. So at third level, if they were outdoors, he could start calling lightning down from the
Mhm.
sky.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean,
you got to
That takes
remember,
10
you can't
minutes
it's
to
just
very
snap your
cast that.
unlimited.
fingers.
It
You
takes
can't
a
just, if you're
long
playing
time
first
to.
ed,
I know. It's got a
Mhm.
ten
long casting time,
10 round casting
etc.
time, but it lasts for hours. And you know what
Mhm.
we would do in our games is the druid would be
Metal.
on watch. If it was cloudy, he would precast right at the beginning of his watch. He'd precast the lightning, and then cast tree, turn into a tree, and then he's on watch all around. And he's got lightning for his duration, the hour and a half or 2 hours that it lasts. Anybody comes into the camp, bam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ultimately, I had them fighting or potentially fighting a an archlich that was a wizard druid. All right,
Mhm.
but I mean, the combination was like, holy shit! I was like, don't fight this guy. He's just actually they ended up
An
aiding
undead
him.
druid, total hypocrite.
Yeah, they ended up aiding him,
Yeah.
he
There's a
and he
dichotomy
ascended.
there. I mean, if the deity that grant him the druid powers will allow it, cool. But
Mhm.
it kind of sounds like um, that it shouldn't work. But you know, I've done
But again,
crazier shit.
Well,
you're
the
thinking
deity that
mechanically as opposed to flavor, right?
yeah, the deity that empowered him to do that was Robert Coons. It was like Robert Coons went hog wild in that. I definitely recommend you guys take a look at that. If you like
What's
druids,
it
you want
called?
to see what's that?
What's it called?
It's called Dark Druids
Dark
or
druids.
Dark Druid. It's a module. He puts it out by his own separate
And it's for AD&D
publishing
1E.
arm. Um, yeah, it's basically 1E. There's a lot of stuff that's in there that's that adventure has a an archdemon that you can face, a demon prince. I'm sorry, a demon prince that you can face. It has 3 artifacts in it as well, and everything else in between is like just kick ass after kick ass. It's a high level adventure. Um, Very much in line with those old school, guys. So it's like is it 7 to 9? But it should really be a 10 to 14. But I it's definitely
True, most
like
modules you got to skew high.
yeah. Those especially those guys, like whether it's Gygax or
Yeah.
Kuntz or whatever, their adventure modules are freaking meant to be very, very challenging. Here's another one, the Dark Chateau, which is kind of an introductory um, to Castle Greyhawk. That's kind of a setup for that, and that's another really cool adventure module. Yeah, he's a great adventure module writer. Probably a little bit better than Gary because they make a little bit more sense.
Right. Yeah, it's not a
Well,
hodgepodge, a theme or a focus to it.
Well, yeah, it's
I've probably got a few of Kuntz's modules there on my
yeah,
shelf.
it's a little less Monty Hallish,
All right.
and
I'm
it does
out.
make more sense.
You're out.
I'm the
What's
most
that,
Monty Hall Dungeon
Shadow?
master I've ever met.
Mm.
Um, I have no problem with that. Maybe it's because the DMs that I did have were the most skin flinty, tightwadish, cheap bastards. It's like you're not paying
Oh,
for the
though.
gold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pure chaos guy. I love randomizing things. It's possible if I'm making a dungeon, there'll be almost no loot, and the players they'll find out when they adventure, or sometimes it's overloaded and it's Monty Hall. It's like, but if that's what the dice determined, so be it. The players, I give players full agency to do whatever they're going to do. If they're going through half a dungeon and they find nothing, like, let's quit. There's nothing here to find. Or they could say, well, let's push through. It's got to be somewhere, right? I think that to me is where the meat of the game is. Let's just see what happens. I'm not going to plan necessarily every time. Plan for, okay, here's 4 levels worth of loot. The dungeon is what the dungeon is. If I'm using a prefab or a module, then it is what it is. I don't usually adjust. My Tomb of the Lizard King being the exception, where I put a holy sword in there because that's why they had gone.
Right.
But
yeah, Tomb of the Lizard King, you need a holy sword in that one.
What's funny is I don't know if you watched my show, but if you see the paladin led the quest because they got word that there was a holy sword here, and so they went through the whole adventure. But the paladin died early, so even when they found the holy sword, they didn't know for sure if it was it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's a great adventure module too.
I haven't run a module except for an Arduino module in 30 years. I have not seen one that, like, I picked up one I really was hoping was going to be great. It was for second edition. It was an undersea adventure, and I wanted to see how TSR did undersea things back in the day, and it was freaking awful. The whole premise was based on false information for the players to even go down there, and when they got there, things were just like, it's like, oh my god, this is my players are not going to have a good time with this. Back in the box. It's just
I haven't.
Well,
run a module.
Random would have been better.
I haven't run a module as written in 45 years.
I run them all the
how I
time.
use them.
Most of my kit is modules. I'll tweak or adjust as needed. But a funny thing about modules is sometimes they read like shit, but they play amazing. So it's really interesting. I found that with the Pharaoh series, the Desert Desolation. I read it and I was like, I don't know, this one's gonna be good. But it's like I wanted to play it. I bought it. I'm damn well gonna use it. And it was a fucking blast. Everybody had an amazing time with them. Like, okay, well, I guess they don't always play like they read. A module could read really well and then play like shit. So, I'm trying to think of a good example of one of that. I don't have any off the top of my head, but I'm sure I could come up with something if I looked at my shelf. Oh, Night of the Walking Dead there for the Ravenloft series. I loved how it read, but it just never played well in practice. Because
The Ravenloft modules were really well done. I'm getting ready to do a whole September through November, not just Ravenloft, but vampires and gothic shit that I've been stocking up. I'm already getting stuff in the mail for it. But some of those modules are some of the best, at least in the way they're written. They may play, worse, but I think they really learned a lot, and that's kind of refreshing.
I ran it twice. Now, this is also going back 20 years, and I've completely evolved how I run things now, too, even in 20 years. So I could probably play it in a different way, but I swear, like when I read it, I was like, oh, this will be amazing. The problem with Ravenloft modules the ones I've read and the couple that I've run is that they are so railroady. They're so linear. Certain things happen at certain times, and you got to make sure the players do X, and that to me is a problem. I want the module to give me the framework.
Well, that's intrinsic to like all modules. Once you agree to go on the ride, you just got to just enjoy it or not.
That's not necessarily. Well, you got to enjoy it or not.
I mean, some modules are written as a sandbox. It's a big area, and you can do the thing. But once you go in like a dungeon, or on a quest for a specific thing, and you've got to hit these markers along the way to get the clues, it's freaking railroad.
Not necessarily. Not all. Even linear stories. Linear doesn't always mean railroad, and players often have the option to leave. All right, we're bugging out. But I think the Ravenloft modules, it seems to me, are trying to evoke a more Call of Cthulhu feeling, where Call of Cthulhu, you're very specifically narrating a story, and there are beats and there's investigations, and it's not going to be absolutely true. I've got a stack of factory sealed Ravenloft that obviously.
Hey, you know what's funny though? I've noticed this over the years. Because back in the day we didn't, the term railroad didn't exist. The only time the word railroad means anything is when the players perceive that it's a railroad. If they don't know, I mean, you could railroad the shit out of them. If they don't know it, they can have the time of their lives, and that's all that matters.
It doesn't
You know,
necessarily predicate fun, but for me,
it
it
also
becomes
doesn't mean that it's a horrible bad thing, bad time, bad touch type of
it becomes a
ordeal.
philosophical for me. And as I got older, like I used to pre-plan the stories and railroad the shit out of my games. And yeah, when we were kids, we had fun. You're
That's how
absolutely
you
right. You
learn.
can't
You
have fun.
have to. It's like training wheels.
Yeah, I think as I got older, I adopted the referee mindset as opposed to the storyteller mindset,
Mhm.
and that for me just blew my mind, enhanced my games to a level where even I as a DM can have fun with surprises, with things that the
Mhm.
players will do, and it would be so often that I would arbitrarily make decisions,
Mhm.
and I'm like, then I just got into the habit of, let the dice decide, and then that's it. And then we go in directions you don't know, and the players will choose, and I simply adjudicate their choice as opposed to, oh, I have an end game, so let's nudge them towards my end game.
Well, the end game is the word. That's that's self defeating to everybody involved. The worst thing I ever heard was from someone we know actually that had already decided how the story was going to end. I'm like, I don't even need to be here. I'm
Yeah.
out. You don't
I'm
need me.
I'm
You,
switching to car mode,
you-
Shadow. Be back in a
okay, no
few.
worries. Okay, you literally don't need any of us. We're just here to roll dice and keep you company.
Yeah, write a book, go publish your book.
Right. And that was a while ago, but uh, you know, sometimes you kind of got to move things a certain way, especially if your world has deities that are involved, even just on the edges. They may do things that are going to force hands, and that that's real common in any story that has the gods or a god in it working behind the scenes. Things are going to happen that you know, take a little agency away from the players. I mean, we do
But
that all
but
the
but that's
time.
fine. That's fine. And the key thing there is you as an adjudicator are looking at what's rational to the world. How is the world and how are the players behind the scenes
Mhm.
reacting to what the PCs are doing, and as opposed to I as the DM have an end game. I have a conclusion I want to see play out. Um,
Mhm.
versus I am okay. The players did X. How do the enemies react? How does the world react? Right.
Yep.
And yes, that's your fun as the DM. How do I do this? What do I do? I make my choice for better or worse, and then we run with it, and the players interact with that choice, as opposed to, okay, I got to get the players here because I want my story to play out.
Mhm.
And again, philosophically, that's where I'm at. I'm at the more adjudicator side, and I find like my enjoyment of the games. Like I never have DM burnout, because I'm always excited to sit down and see what happens. Even though like I'm running Night Below, which has
Yeah.
an end game. It's got a linear plot, but it's so vast that I just have to sit back and let the players interact. And I just have to know what the scenarios are and who the players are. And even so, if the players decide that they are abandoning the mission, abandoning the campaign, and going to do something else, I will adjudicate that. I will say, okay, well, what
Yeah. It's funny too because like I had a situation where um, I'm running this game and I keep telling the players, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. I have no. Uh, I have no. I'm just here to like do exactly what you were explaining, and because the other players wanted to do things a certain way, someone else got it in their head that was railroading the game. I'm like, yeah, I made everybody else decide to do what you didn't want to do, therefore it's railroading.
No, well, that's purely on the players. If you're a player in a game and the rest of the group is going in a direction you don't want to go, if you don't speak up, that's on you.
Yeah.
You have every right to say, no, that's a bad idea. I don't want to do that. And then discuss. That's the game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just, I've got a player who does this all the time. He'll sit there quietly sulking because he doesn't want to. This is, I guess, an issue with him. He doesn't want to appear wrong. He doesn't want to appear like an idiot. So he doesn't say anything. And then when everything goes to shit because he didn't speak up, he's like, well, I knew that was going to happen. Well, then you should have spoken up. Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, my players will hem and haw and spend a whole session deciding what to do, you know, at times. And, you know, the things that they come up with and ideas go all over the freaking place, which is another problem I'm finding with older players our age. It's they've been through so many relationships that their ability to enjoy the game is ruined by paranoia.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all have our issues that we try to work through at the table, but
No, I mean,
yeah,
unable to, like I was talking about earlier, unable to trust any NPC. All NPCs are there to either give you something or take something from you. That's it. That's
that's a
all they
gift as
do.
a DM. That's a gift as a DM. It's like, all right, you're gonna keep making choices based on that paranoia, and that's fun. Play it out, see what happens. That's
It
on them.
leads to total party
Consequences are on
kills.
them.
It leads
Sorry,
to
what?
total party kills.
Then it leads to total party kills until they learn their fucking lesson.
Well, they won't learn their lesson. They'll just move on to the next game.
Okay,
You know,
well,
there is no. It's not like we're teaching anymore. You know,
you can't.
they've learned all they can learn. They know everything, and that's it.
Well, I mean, we can't speak. We're not therapists either. You know, that's why I just sort of
Exactly. My
let the
point
players
is,
make their choices. Eventually, they come to learn,
Right.
or as you say, they don't.
You're not going to teach them by telling them. You teach them by showing them. You teach them by having consequences, both positive
you would
and
think.
negative, from
You
their
would think.
actions. No, it. I think it works. I think it ultimately works best that way. It's like, all right, you can leave that thing alone, and now, because you've gone on a side quest, and now that thing has run rampant, and now you're looking bad. When you come back, you know your group's reputation has declined because you didn't
Yeah.
stop. You know, you didn't stop that particular thing because you decided to go do something else, which is fine. You went and did something else, and maybe you'll have a positive reputation there, but now it's negative over here.
Let
You
the
know,
world
and
react. Yeah.
right. Let the world react to it, and they will start to, they'll start to figure it out. I mean, and this is with old dogs too. I mean, they will sit there and being overcautious. Sometimes will have those negative consequences to it as well. I've always told that group, I will never punish you for being bold. Stupid, yes, but never bold. You know what I'm saying? You will actually have
Sometimes
probably more negative consequences for being too hesitant to do things that
Mhm.
that's and having those arguments where they're arguing, oh well, we're going to do this. Meanwhile, the players are standing there arguing about what next to do for 15 minutes. Guess how many encounter rolls I've made during that 15 minutes? Probably 4.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And the
it's
longer
real
they
time.
go, the worse it's going to become. By the time that encounter eventually happens.
Well,
You know,
but it's also to that exact example. It's like, okay, they're arguing 15 minutes and the voices get elevated. And well, to me, that's happening in game in real time. So it's like,
Yes.
all right, so your voices are now carrying through this empty corridor, echoing
Well,
down.
yeah, that's
alerting
assuming
people.
that it's in a dungeon. You know, not
Well,
everything.
yes, I mean, if they're arguing in a bar, fine. But it's like, okay, they're having an argument in a bar, and somebody says something, and then you just quietly do reaction rolls to see if some patron gets offended by something they say. You can still create an encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like you're just fishing for for breaking up the discussion and moving the game along arbitrarily. If the players want to waste their time doing that crap, I got no problem with that. But I'm not going to just like roll random monsters just because they're whispering in a corner somewhere, even if they're in a dungeon.
Time passes. There's a
yeah,
reason.
but
There's a
unless
reason you
your
roll
dungeon
every
has
couple
like
of turns for an encounter, because things
yeah,
will wander
right,
along.
but here's the thing: if the dungeon itself, I mean, I know where everything is in my dungeons, and if there's patrols, fine. If there's people in rooms that could hear, fine. But if they've cleared out a bunch of rooms and now they're in an empty room and all the rooms around them for 100 yards are empty, and they're sitting there, having a discussion, and I know where everything else is, I'm not going to just randomly make things appear as wandering monsters.
But that's a fair adjudication.
Why not?
So because that is literally what we're saying. They've cleared out half a dungeon. Well, yes, reduce the encounter checks or eliminate them, because you're now changing, you're reacting to their actions. But if there's still something out there lurking, there's the possibility that it could be drawn to
right. No, my point was like wandering monsters.
I
There's no. I mean, I get the mechanic, but for the most part, I know where everything is. At every second, I know that the wandering monsters that it exists.
People don't just sit there waiting for adventures to come. They have lives. They're doing.
No, I know they move around, and I usually like for guards, they have a route that they're supposed to patrol, and I know where the route is, and I'm watching, because at some point it's not really a random encounter. It's going to happen because they're going to cross paths, and it's just a matter of when and where it happens, if it does at all, because they could miss each other and go down a route that's not on that particular patrol's path. But like wandering, how there would be like just wandering monsters that are just wandering around in a dungeon that the other inhabitants of the dungeon, like intelligent ones, haven't just dismissed or destroyed, because it would be a nuisance to them as well. You've got a wandering displacer beast, in your dungeon. The hobgoblins probably would have killed it already.
The wandering charts don't tell you when or why they came, right? That's for you. That's the challenge for you as the DM. Mm-hmm. Okay, this wandering monster doesn't seem to make sense. Well, how do I justify it? Right? You put it in there. Yeah, that displacer beast, which would slaughter everything else in the dungeon, probably just arrived. Maybe it followed the PCs in, right? Like that's for you to justify. I mean, and if it doesn't make sense and you're the one creating the dungeon, why did you put it there in the first place?
Well, that's my point. I don't put them there.
You would.
I put things that can happen, that are technically wandering, but they're not like I said, they have absolute reason for being there.
I'm running B1 right now on my OSE campaign. And
okay, great module.
And
it's a lot of fun.
On the wandering monster chart, there's only 6 entries. There's kobolds, there's orcs, there's troglodytes, centipedes, and one other I can't remember off the top of my head. But
zombies, maybe?
I don't know if it's zombies, but almost every encounter, if you've watched the videos, has been a troglodyte. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like they've encountered troglodytes on every go. So what that tells me as a DM is, okay, there's a tribe of troglodytes in this dungeon. Right? Mm-hmm. The one time they encountered orcs, again, in my mind, they killed the orcs, they didn't talk to them, but in my mind it was because there's an orc tribe near the dungeon outside. They've found their way in, they're doing their own exploring, right? So it's easy to justify the presence of a creature. But the troglodytes, having the troglodyte encounter just show up naturally now informs, okay, this is informing the world, so now there's a tribe in there, and I can play with that. I can work with that. And the players will know, it's like, okay, we've encountered troglodytes every time, so there's got to be a tribe in there. They can start putting that piece together as well. Sorry, Stephen Kennedy's saying something.
Oh, two totally different styles of refereeing, not going to change the other's minds. I've been down this road a dozen times. This road leads to nowhere.
He's right. People have adopted the styles they like to play, but I never feel that the discussion is wasted, because you could present an argument to me. I'm like, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I'll incorporate that, and vice versa. So it's always worth having these discussions about, this is how I run my game. Let me display. I'm not saying my game is better than yours. I'm saying that this is my game has, this is how my game's evolved to the where I like it. Right. And this is for me. And my players come and go. Like I've had players back out because they didn't quite love the open world style. And I've had other players come in and go, oh my God, this is amazing. I never want to leave.
Yeah, it's funny
you'll
because
find your tribe.
I was thinking about this earlier. There's a lot of people that are like in our circle or you know watch these videos and stuff that have come from like how do I put this? They're trying very much to recapture the essence of what we used to do. You know what I mean? And it's impossible, but they still try. You know, and God bless them for it because it gets them back into the hobby. But they need to, you know, realize that, you know, just because you're running X module, you're not, you know, you're not 17 anymore. You're, you know, you've lived
Oh.
and you've grown and you've learned. You've already said you've run these modules several times, and each time is
It's a
drastically
different experience. Yeah.
very because you yourself as a DM have learned a million things since then that have, you know, like if you could had a time machine and you could take all three of yourselves, you know, who ran this module and have them compete somehow to find out which one is better, you know, invariably the older version is going to win.
Sorry
And why do I
about
have what is
I
this?
got a visitor. Hello.
Yeah, I had a phone call I had to take, and that just turned off my volume on everything, so I couldn't hear you guys anymore.
Glad to hear it.
You're totally garbling out there.
Sorry, I had to go. The puppies out, water the garden. Yeah, George and Dave are the best.
Oh yeah,
They're the best.
connection again. Well,
Yeah, it's okay. You're probably going in that little valley that.
So, how do you feel about this whole Brennan Lee Mulligan controversy?
Who is that?
Okay, you don't even know. So on Critical Role last week, Brennan Lee
Oh,
Mulligan,
the not rolling. The not rolling.
thing. Yeah.
Okay,
he said,
okay,
well, that
it's
was
really-
such a great
it's really
speech.
simple.
I'm not even going to roll. You succeed.
Okay, here's the thing. It depends on what you want. Do you want more players to role play, or do you want the mechanics to completely eliminate role playing altogether? If you're going to just have, because like I was watching my son do some of these things in his game the other day, where people are wanting to do perception checks. Okay,
Mhm.
do you want there to be perception checks and perception checks completely omit all actual searching in game? Or do you want all charisma checks to replace all actual role playing? Because that's
there are other options. Doesn't have to be extreme one or the other.
no, but they will encourage one form of play over the other to the point that it could online gaming. I'm only talking about online because in person you have a lot more time to play. My kids, my son and his friends, they played 8 hours on Tuesday. When we're on screen, it's like 2 hours, maybe 3 or 4, unless you're Bruce and you're trying to break a record. Everybody else has got a finite period of time to play on screen, and you're going to get, you know, one thing is going to prove to be more expedient and better for the viewing audience, and therefore, you know, more likely to keep happening and become the preferred method, I think.
To a degree, but I also feel that in the case of stakes, in the case where failure is a possibility, you should always roll, and you should always use the mechanics, especially with charisma. Like, do you want like that kind of ruling makes you never want to? You'll always dump stack charisma because you have now taken charisma out of play. It's like, okay, so conversely, along the same lines, like if I were a jock at that table, I was a professional boxer at that table, but I'm playing a wizard with a strength of 4. Well, guess what? I'm going to actually physically flip the table, and I should be able to apply my physical strength to what's going on in game. Where if the guy with the real life charisma at the table is able to talk the DM into a decision without making a roll, thus rendering the mechanics moot. Well, why can't I, who am physically powerful at the table, do the same? Right? It's obviously an absurd argument.
They're kind of apples and oranges, but I get the point. The point is that if one, I think if you know the player is capable of using his own natural charisma, I would say you can't dump stat your charisma right off the bat.
Well,
Yeah.
but then you're making arbitrary decisions.
It's like okay,
The
you're not
simplest
allowed
thing to do is to let the modifiers do their work. So
Sure.
yes, just because you have a low charisma doesn't mean you can't strike a nerve or hit a chord. And likewise, just because you have a high charisma doesn't mean you're always going to charm the pants off of people.
No,
That's why the modifiers are there.
And you could even argue that the mere act of trying to charm could be something that grates against the person being charmed.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
hate that kind of person. They before you even talk, they hate guys who try to freaking talk their way out of it.
You're absolutely right, and that's why the role exists. It's like, okay, and I've had this
so even
happen,
if they like if they rolled a 1, you could go, well, even with your +4, you failed, and you're now
failure is still possible with a high charisma. Success is still possible with a low charisma, and that's why. And if the situation didn't have high stakes, then sure, it'd be arbitrary. But if it was necessary, and this is where I think this is where it diminishes the game. I don't want to help other people how to play their game. And
right.
Critical Role has their audience; they're obviously doing something right. But
right, and their style promotes the role playing as an ROLE because it's that kind of a game.
But those people, even if the modifiers were 100% in play, they're still going to role play the shit out of their characters because that's their nature. That's
right. But here's the problem, which I've always, even before meeting Shauner, tried to encourage is the actual role playing. But if your introverts at the table who just I make a perception check, I make a charisma check. Well, what do you say? I don't know if my character figures it out.
You soft encourage. Well, if there's a puzzle or something like that, no, I'm not.
No, but I mean literally having to interact with an NPC. I don't want to. I don't want to.
Types are going to vary, and if you have a constant that the rules are in play for everything. So yeah, your introvert has an 18 charisma. It's like okay, just they don't have to act. And I tell people this who aren't comfortable acting at tables. Like I've got actors, I've got non-actors at my tables. It's like just to tell me what you're attempting to accomplilish.
But they can. I've literally seen.
Those introverts will come out of their shell.
I've literally seen players say, "My character. I'm not saying anything. I don't want to role play at all. Just let me make a check and let's go."
Then you work with it. You don't want to force a player into something where they're uncomfortable, but you still have to coax something out of them. It's like if they're going to do the minimum, you can give them the minimum. Right? Okay, go ahead and make your roll. I rolled a 19. Well, I guess the DC.
No, in game puzzles, if the players solve it, they solve it.
Absolutely.
They did the work, and I mean, otherwise, why have the puzzle?
I only put puzzles in the game that are meant to be solved by the players, not by a roll.
Right,
yeah.
And even then, you've got to give them clues, and that's a whole thing. That's like a meta game, a game within a game. If you're gonna, if you're going to let them roll to solve it, you don't even need to do any work on the puzzle. You can just say
the roll
in front of you.
Puzzle. If there's a roll for a puzzle, it's to give a clue, right? It's not to give them the solution; it's to give them a clue.
Or you remember, you remember this, or you notice this, or something like that.
You have them information that they can work with, but they still have to solve the puzzle. But that's a different concept. But yeah,
I find that it's pointless to go to a lot of trouble unless the puzzle is going to have all the clues in the session, and then they have to solve the puzzle at the end of the session. And if not, you're going to have a problem because if the next session is 2 weeks from now, they're not.
When it comes to puzzles, I use them sparingly, though, unless it's in a module, it's prefabbed. I like to, if I'm going to use a puzzle, I put something in that the players that they don't have to solve on the spot. like a cipher for a treasure map, for instance. I did this a couple of years back where I
Yeah,
created
not to figure out the puzzle
yeah,
to
they had
stop
to
the
figure out the
water from
cipher,
filling
but
the room. I
because
love
we do
those.
one-to-one time and real time passes between sessions and they were back home, it's like, by all means, coordinate, discuss it, because your characters are having this time to go over it, so use your time away from the table to solve the puzzle. And it took them a month of real time to finally figure out the cipher, and then they led them to treasure, so it was a good time. But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to handle it. But on the charisma role issue, yeah, it's like, all right, I always say play the game you want to play, but don't dump stat charisma, and you will only encourage dump stat charisma if you forego roles because somebody role plays well. It's like, well, I'm not giving a free pass to somebody just because they happen to be eloquent at the table. No, they're still subject to the die rolls. But yeah, modifiers are good. Oh my God, that was an amazing speech. I'm gonna give you advantage, or I'm gonna give you a modifier. But I believe you got to default to the mechanics. If failure is consequential, then you gotta roll for it and see what happens, and then that can lead you to fun, because okay, what if that speech turned off the person and denied you access to something you need? You can now have a problem to solve. You got to figure out how you undo that damage, and that to me is the game. That's fun. That's interesting.
But
Not
what if
oh, that was good.
like what if you and you can tell everybody else, a player does the oratory thing. He's up there and he's role playing it and doing a great job, and everybody's like, oh, you could tell everybody in the room is digging it. I think that kind of in and of itself has proved that it should be more than just a +4. Maybe just let it freaking,
you look at the situation, and you
succeed. Yeah.
never obviously you never punish, even if the role is failure, you never punish the attempt, and that's key. Like, you don't want to mock people, you don't want, do that,
Right,
but you got to
right.
make them clear that they're, it's like, all right, but that's the fun. You make a show of the role, like that might be a role I put out in front instead of behind the screen.
Right. But
And then everybody can see the dice turn up on their own, and they know it's like, oh wow, it's like I rolled a natural 1 on the response, right? So you can turn that into an event, and that actually makes it fun as well. When the it's like, okay, this is an important speech, this is an important decision. Okay, it's just like that key attack roll that comes in on the fighter who's down to his last hit point, and the guy coming in, you're rolling it, and everybody's on edge until that die settles. The same thing can be done with a charisma roll, where the consequences are important. So roll that reaction up front so everybody sees it. I usually hide reaction rolls, because sometimes evil characters, they'll be cagey, and like they'll smile in your face and you think they're positive, but they're plotting to stab you in the back. But if the players see the roll and they see that's genuinely positive, they'll know. But in terms of something like that, yeah, sure, roll out in front, but still make the roll, still see that consequences will happen. And
yeah, the problem with that though is if you roll out, like if you're doing the player does the thing and you're going to roll in front of the players to see what the result is of their endeavor, and they see they failed, you are obligated to show them the the results. You can't be cagey, like you said. You can't have the
that's why you do
NPC.
it. You do it sparingly. If it's a big moment, then sure, let them see it. Then everybody knows this was the honest result, right? And then you as the DM have to justify the result, and that's part of the skill of DMing. That's the fun of DMing, is taking those off the wall situations. That character with a 18 charisma who made an impassioned speech both in game and at the table, and a natural 1 turned up. It's like, okay, well, I got to figure out why he does not react well to you, and that is
Right,
also
but
fun.
I see more. I see more discouraging elements from role playing than I do see encouraging for.
Not everything's going to be perfect, though, and anybody who's comfortable enough to do role playing at the table, they're not going to be put off by one lousy die roll, because anybody who understands the game knows that shit happens.
I'm not worried about
But
the guys who are good at it. I'm worried about the guys who are bad at it. They're going to see it didn't matter. You wasted all of our time role playing and you failed.
Everybody
let's
loves
never do
it.
that again.
It doesn't matter whether it succeeded or failed. If everybody loved that moment, they loved that moment. And sometimes the failure can enhance that moment. It makes it even funnier. Like somebody has this big speech and bam, it's like, no, they get slapped down. That can be funny and that can be an enjoyable experience too.
You would
if you're
think,
sitting here,
but my
yeah,
experience over the last couple of years is that more and more people hate actual role playing online. Mind you, this is always online because that's the only way I play right now. More and
every
more
group.
players I see hate actual role playing in game. They just want to get to the fight. Um, and anything that takes away from that, even like the smallest thing, is viewed as you're stepping on my time and my enjoyment. Stop it.
Well, that's conditioning of the players, and there's nothing you can do about that other than it's like, okay, assholes, here's a new way to play. Take your ego out of the equation and just let the system play out, let the game play out, and see what happens. Um, Bad News Bart says that a lot of people in the hobby are socially awkward, and I agree they shouldn't be penalized, but failure is not a penalty. Failure is just a consequence. It happens, and you have to be able to accept failure in a game. I've seen people unrelated to the charisma issue. I've seen people melt down at the dice because their strike roll failed. It's like, well, that's the game. You missed. You attacked and you missed. And I had a friend melt down because he failed to turn the undead, and the undead swarmed him and killed him. And he got a whine. That should have worked. So yes, but it didn't. Even though you had a 50-50 chance, it didn't. And he was like a 65-year-old man moping like a child. Well, it's about the story. You should have let it happen. It's like,
No. If you're going to use dice, because there are times when you don't need to use dice as the DM, you could just decide. And I'm a huge fan of the Amber Dice's role playing game. That is still a game, despite what a-holes say about it not being a game. There are rules. Chess and checkers and poker do not use dice. Okay, charades is a game that does not use dice, but it's still a game. You can play games that don't use random
right.
elements.
And when I play charades, I do not demand that somebody come bring in some dice for randomization. That's charades. I'm playing D&D. D&D is very, very specifically laid out. There are roles for interactions. There are roles.
I was just speaking on Amber the Dice's role playing game specifically. A lot of people say it's not a game. It is, in fact, a game if you'd read the rules. But yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
With
if I were
D&D,
playing Amber
there are a
Diceless,
whole bunch.
I would honor the rules of Amber Diceless, right?
Yeah. And the over the last couple of 6 months to a year, I've been noticing that playing online is so much different. Literally, you have to have like completely different rules in a lot of cases for playing online versus playing in person. You just don't have the time to waste for so much that it literally changes the dynamics and literally even sometimes the rules. Like in a lot of games, you roll for initiative every round.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Bloodworth will tell you you roll initiative in his games. You'll roll initiative at the beginning of the combat, or maybe even the game, and that's what you have for the whole game. Because I am not taking 20 minutes out of the 2 hours that we have to keep rolling initiative. You see what I'm saying? Because it's
yeah. Well, when I ran online, I was running 5e, so it's one initiative for the entire encounter. But I used Roll20. It had an initiative tracker, so it only took about 5 minutes, not even.
But that's still 5 minutes that don't need to be taken up when people are literally looking at their watch the whole fucking time.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Hurry up, get to the combat.
Requires a different set of tools and a different approach. But you still
it's vast. It's vastly different, and it's still taking me some time to get the hang of it because there are no instructions. There's no rule book on playing online. How you do it. There's no defined, chiseled in stone etiquette for playing online.
It's almost like in the 80s when we couldn't we had to figure out how to role play and play role playing games because there was no online tutorials.
Right. And it's so different, and people come to it with such high expectations and demands sometimes that it's taking some time to figure out and get used to and understand, because people are dishonest at session zero. I find more than any other time in the game. Uh,
It's more like
but
they're dishonest with themselves. Like you have
yeah,
people at session zero that they'll say, "I do this, I like this," and they believe it, but that's not how they are.
hmm, hmm. And
Yeah.
what they want, and because there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I just want to kill monsters and take their stuff and move on. I don't care about any of that other crap." Okay, well, guess what? This isn't the game for you.
Yeah.
This isn't the table for you. But I want to be. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm flattered, but this particular game, we're doing this, and you don't like that. So why would you want to be in this situation? You know how it is. You've been in these games before, or you've seen it. You heard me talk about it. Never. What's up, Cal? Uh, and uh, it's irritating because you thought you vetted these players for this particular game. You've done the work, and then when the rubber hits the road, it's you're dealing with one or more people who literally don't want any of that. You know what I mean? It's rough. Someone that's not me needs to officially make the rules for online gameplay, and this is how many rolls to hit you're supposed to make per hour of being in front of the camera, how many saving throws you should be required to make.
There's no standard, right? There's no standard. You just play the situation, play the scenario. I personally believe, I mean, Critical Role is interesting. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't watch it. I watched it just to see what they were doing, and but I think there's a balance to be struck with presentational games and the actual games. Like for me, I would make a lousy presentational DM out of Critical Role style thing, or even online. Like, I mean, I play in stream games. I play in Dungeon Damsel stream game for Shadow Dark. I've done Bear's games. Bear is a great presentational DM. He's got that knack. But he's one of the types who will forego the rules for the presentation. I'm the referee DM. I want to make sure that everything at the table is fair, and I will react and adjudicate. I don't know if that would necessarily be a great for a great presentation, but I do believe that it's possible to find that balance, to play the game with all of its elements, but still present it in a way that is engaging to watch. And when I figure it out, I'll start my own Critical Role and make millions. But until then, I'm content to play my games and recap them with my little paper minis.
Which I wouldn't stop doing what you're doing. You're one of the more original guys out there. Anybody can go up there and act out a play, or do a skit or whatever. And then there's people who just run random games that are just completely, organic, and there's no preconceived anything. Nobody has any clue what's going to happen. There's mixes, etc. Ultimately, I think it comes down to people connecting with and liking the presence of whoever's on the screen.
Yeah, that's
What happens, may or may not be, why they're there. They may not be able to tell you what happened last session or recap the entire freaking game. This is what happened. Most players, or excuse me, most viewers would never be able to tell you the whole story, which would probably break the heart of the people involved. Because like we did this thing, it was like a movie, and like not to the viewers, not to all of the viewers. They're just there to watch their perceived online friends, do things and make them laugh.
Mhm.
Or there's people out there that secretly have feelings for the people on the screen, and they're not paying attention to what they're doing. There's all kinds of weird things going on with online interactions and online games and stuff. That's why um, I only it's rarer and rarer that I do an online like televised game, because um, it's a disservice to the audience, trying to do both things, interact with them, and in the
right.
game it's yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you need
my
someone else to talk to the audience, Otherwise they're just like sitting there watching, and they could watch anything.
If
There's
you're gonna do it streamed, you got to keep in mind that there is a potential audience, and
and that's
my
distracting
games would
hell.
be watching paint dry to the average. Like if you watch the one stream game I did with Dungeon Ministers, because that was part of his con, and he had a streamed table. I mean, it's like it'd be watching paint dry to the average audience. But from
Yeah,
a
like Bruce's game. I love him, but the people that watch it are his friends, people
right,
who he talked to, etc.
and he marathons that shit. That's like an 8-hour session. I'm like, oh
I,
my god.
I used to be in his game. We would do 8 to 10 hours. Then I would go and do my show for 2 hours with a dinner break, and then I'd
Right.
go on a third show for 2 to 3 hours plus an after party. There were times I was spending 18 hours on a Saturday in front of a
That's
freaking camera, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I can't do this. This is
yeah.
stupid.
I
This
want
is
to get out,
like
get it done.
right.
Yeah,
Right?
I run the game I want to run. My players are
That's ultimately as the GM what you have to do, and hope that you get the right players. Like my AD&D game, it started out with like 8 or 10 players. I'm down to 4 after 2.5 years. People have gone on or been kicked off or whatever. All the whole literally the whole spectrum of possible types of players and reasons for players coming and going, and it's fine. And the people that are there, like Cal, it's a great group. But sometimes they butt heads, but they still keep coming back, and hopefully when all is said and done, and we put up those character sheets up on the shelf, like in Stranger Things, um, and move on to something else, it'll have been worth everybody's time, or at least the last 4 players, because they stuck with it the longest, and those are the ones that matter the most.
Well, if
And
they're coming back, then obviously, then that's the bottom line. You eventually whittle it down, and you'll get the committed players.
mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
and I
and,
know
and
one of my guys. We were on this topic of would we live stream a game, and I said yes, but I would
two of
curate
them.
the players. I would curate the players. It wouldn't be. I wouldn't live stream my actual existing tables. I would handpick players who I know could do it.
Yeah,
And I got one guy in my group was sort of offended that I said you wouldn't be on that list.
yeah.
So it's like,
There's I've noticed that too. There are live streams I watch, and there are players I'm like, after 3 sessions of that kind of behavior, I wouldn't have you on the show again.
oh, it's not about
For that,
behavior. It's just about
well,
presentational ability.
for
Yeah.
that particular thing, I mean, if you're disruptive, or argumentative, or non-participatorial,
No, it has nothing to do with
then
any of that. He's a fine player. It's just he wouldn't present well, right? He's not a good enough actor that he could carry it off, things like that. And it's like, and I had to tell him, I had to follow up. It's like, if I were objectively picking, I wouldn't pick me either. But I have people in my circles who could pull it off. We just have to get a DM who could pull it off from a presentational standpoint. So, but that's it's not something that's high on my priority list. What's this, George?
on past stream we had chat on restream window. I found that easier to engage with chat. Yeah, like where it is right now. Roll for initiative, orcs charge, that kind of thing. Because I try to do that, but sometimes I forget, or like I forget to scroll, because it doesn't on here. It doesn't automatically scroll like it does elsewhere, which is really stupid. It should just keep scrolling, so that I know that there's people making comments, and if I miss them, it's because they've gone up, not because I haven't scrolled down to see them, which is dumb. But like I said, it's a whole new ball game. It's literally starting from scratch, learning to play live, even on the internet. Because I've played in person games where a player or two will come in using their computer back in the day. Because I had a friend who was in another state, wanted to play, and that works, but it's still different than this, or playing on Discord or something like that. And um,
Well, a good VTT will help as well. Now, my problem playing online was it required so much more prep because you would have the maps laid out and stuff like that. But and that's
I
why
hear you saying that, but ask Cal. I will sketch the maps out right there on an index card and then post it because I never know where they're going. I don't know exactly what they're doing. Fortunately, like last week, they said they want to go explore the volcano for the big bad guy. Blah blah blah. So I got to draw that up and you know.
But that I was about to say that's also a strength of the VTTs because I found something I did something interesting that I was like I had a light bulb moment because I had a really detailed map and I just let the players explore it free form, right? And they were moving their tokens around because they had the dynamic lighting, so the lighting with their torch would all automatically kick in,
That's
and
neat.
they were like, and the map was so detailed that they were like, all right, they could just say, well, I see this. Oh, hey, I want to explore this chair or this table and chair here, or I want to look in this corner. I want to open this cabinet. So they were able to do that. So a really detailed, good VTT map can allow for sort of real time freeform. And then what I did in that case, when a monster showed up, I said, okay, everybody freeze. Now we go into combat mode where it's turn based. But if you've got a good enough map and a VTT that can handle it, that's actually an interesting way of doing it with a really detailed map of a dungeon or whatever, and then they can interact. So I had been thinking about that. It's like, but that still requires the advanced planning. You have to lay it all out.
Oh yeah. That's a lot. That's potentially a lot of work. And I have a rule, kind of like my meal prep. If it takes longer to cook than it does to eat, I'm wasting my time.
Hello, what happened
Am I
there?
back? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, so I said I look at it like my meal prep. If it takes longer to cook than it does to eat, I'm wasting my time. Ultimately, now special occasions, special meals, get-togethers, that's
Yeah,
totally different. And on some games, if I'm going to spend, like my Sunday game, I spend let's say 4 hours from 3 hours, excuse me. If I'm going to spend 3 hours prepping for that game, that's too much prep because they're not going to go through 3 hours worth of everything I did.
I tend
Combat
to.
closing. What?
Um, in the case of a VTT in a big campaign, like if you have a mega dungeon and it's all already set, you're good to go. But yeah, if you don't know where they're going, if you're purely open world, that can be a problematic approach. I would love to get one of those. If I was going to do online, I'd get one of those little track pads with a pen that you can actually draw as opposed to using your mouse, because then it can be really fast. Okay, here I'm going to draw what you see. Boom, done.
Yeah, you should see the map I did of the last area. See if I can find it. It was super because it was I was trying to do an isometric map because they were traveling up and down and left and right in 3 dimensions. Let's see if I can find that. Cal knows the one I'm talking about. Come on, where is it? Okay. That was it. It's pitiful. It's primitive. They came down the shaft. There's the square in the middle is a 50-foot cubic room with doors on all four walls, and you can go straight down. You know, it, it was fun, but it was I couldn't draw that on a VTT because well, I mean I could, but it wouldn't give them the same sort of perspective because they're in the middle of a it's not necessarily they were in the middle of a floating island. Okay, I know like High Fell is similar, but they'd come down and they were in the center of it, and they can go left, right, north, south, east, and west, so to speak, or they could continue down. Um, and I was trying to explain that to them, and they just weren't. Some of them just weren't like able to conceptualize it. But sometimes I have to draw something on the fly, so one of those tablets does sound kind of handy. Um, if I can somehow use it with my laptop and still use Discord
Mm.
to
You
show
should be
them.
able to. I don't know. I had a friend who DM'd online. He had one of those trackpads. So I mean, with a electronic pen that he could draw. I'll talk to him, find out where he got that. But
Yeah, Jackie's looking for something similar too, but for a completely different reason, mostly just for his art. But for the most part, I've been able to run on index cards for the past 2.5 years. I've literally got a stack of index cards. It's about this thick. Those are my notes. I had a notebook, but I was writing stuff down and like filling up the different cities and parts of the map, and nobody went to any of those places. It was a total waste of my time. I did another campaign a while ago. I did all kinds of work for it, and complete waste of time. They didn't want anything to do with any of that. They just wanted to go to the farthest place on the map. You know what I mean? It was like, we want to go there. I'm like, well, okay, cool, but you got to go through like 20 other places to get there, and
well,
there's
that's
like
their adventure. That's where they want to go. And that,
right
that gives
and
you
literally
time because it's going to take them. You can probably have several sessions of overland adventure just to
right,
get
but
them.
they had it in their mind that they could literally go there now.
Right. Well,
We're just gonna go in the woods, forget stocking up on gear and equipment. We're just gonna go straight there
and then
now.
they die from exposure. Great.
Or worse, they wouldn't have made it 10 miles the way they were
Right.
equipped. Maybe they
Did,
might have made
did,
it
did you
50
have a
miles.
wise old NPC happen to sort of
Oh no,
yeah,
no. They
want
hated
to,
it. They hated every NPC in the game. They
well
despised
then
every one of them.
that's their game. That's when
No,
they're starving.
that's literally the basic mentality of online players that I've encountered. There's a few exceptions. Not going to lump them all in there, but the ones that actually like that were also the players that everybody else hated. It's like, shut up, let's just fight. Literally was damn near almost word for word quotes from players to each other.
Well, then they're just not going to last as players. They're after the video game experience. It's like George Aragog is a Wake Home tablet. All right, I guess that's.
I think there's some sort of water purification. I hope that's what he's talking about. Otherwise, there's some sort of sedative to calm my players' asses down.
Yep.
No, I just
No.
have to, vet players and explain a little better and tell them, be a little more strict and a little less forgiving uh, to
Yeah.
run the games. That
Google search Wake Home tablets. You'll find what you're looking for.
what are those?
The tablets that you draw. Right.
Oh, okay. Let me write that down. I thought you were talking water purification or something.
No. It's the tablets that we were talking about, so you can draw your map.
Okay, it would help if I could find a pen that works. I've been having that problem a lot lately. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't help the players like that they're looking for the video game experience, and until
Mhm.
they learn what a role playing game can be,
And the
they're going to
problem,
be content playing that style of game. They just won't be content playing that style of game when it comes to a DM who's more old school. They'll have to. That's a culture shock adjustment, right?
well, that's despite yesterday's video, um, that is becoming more and more prevalent online with online games and maybe even in person. I don't know, but the not the youngest generation like Jackie's generation because they're like way into the role playing
Mhm.
because they don't know how to play wrong or how to play that way. Where it's just combat. They're into the
And
story.
when I was a kid, it was all about the combat. So it's something
Yeah,
you go out.
there's like different generations have different or different age groups have different goals and desires. Because I was the same way. As a youngster when we first started playing, we didn't know anything about half the stuff that was in the DMG and all the other
Mhm.
things you could
Yeah.
do. We just wanted to go fight the monsters, take their stuff. But there are a lot of people or whatever that's literally what they want and uh, what they expect from more and more communities, because I think more and more communities are, like you said, trying to emulate the video game experience. And you know eventually that gets old, or they just
Right.
end up
Eventually,
playing.
it gets old. The people have to come to that conclusion themselves too, though.
Yeah, which is it's just frustrating when people you know explain, tell you one thing but then do another.
Right. Well, people are going to live in their own heads. They're going to have their own delusions. I got a friend who was in my online 5e game who outright, he played a lawful good soldier and said he hated PvP, yet he was the one causing all the issues. He was the one defying the Lord and breaking the law. And it was like, and blaming everybody else for starting PvP. It's like, well, you were the one who instigated everything. So he eventually just left. And I've known this guy a long time. I've known him since I guess I was a teenager. So it was, it's one of those things. It was a little surprising to me. I hadn't gamed with him since I was a kid, but because he's a good, forceful role player, but he doesn't, present the way he thinks he does. Like he was playing lawful good, and we were talking. I said, "You're playing a great chaotic good." And he's like, "No, I disagree. I'm playing lawful." It's like you literally locked a noble into the room and threatened to open his head with a hatchet. That's not the actions of a lawful good soldier. So. Anyway,
The way you put it, no, it does not sound like it, but
no, it really was.
I can't imagine how he thought that was, other than I am the law.
Yeah. Well, he was in his mind. He was playing a dwarf from another land, and he was fanatic about his dwarven laws. So as far as he was concerned, he wasn't violating the dwarven laws. It's like, okay, well, that's to my mind a weak justification, because the lawful still understands the laws and has a respect for the laws, even if they are of the need for laws. And the noble in question, he was the law in this land. So you don't just go around threatening the nobles because you don't like them.
Yeah,
Even
you
if
think that there's some sort of, like tenet in their lawfulness that includes, interactions with other nations.
he was using it as an excuse to not have to play lawful, right? He wanted the label of lawful, but not have to play lawful. And it's like, all right, but that's why the great chaotic, absolute great chaotic. You had issues with this guy, so you lock him in his room and threaten him. Boom. But what had happened to the scene preceding that, the guy playing a chaotic neutral pirate had done the same thing. It's like, well, that was perfectly on brand, right? So yeah, it was a funny game, actually. It was a good one overall, but unfortunately he didn't last. He kept getting more frustrated. He started accusing me of he wasn't having a good time. It's like, okay, but you're the one making choices. I adjudicate your choices. And what can you do? The other part of that was we were using Roll20, which Roll20 was just getting so choppy and slow, and he had a slow old computer that wasn't reacting to it. So that the technical aspect as well, he was getting really annoyed with. But in his mind, he was playing the perfect lawful good, even though he was antithetical to being lawful good, or lawful at least. He played the good element well enough, but the lawful he didn't quite dive into, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of Greyhawk players that what was the deity, that lawful good deity that everybody seems to freaking play as a just a homicidal maniac.
I can't remember. I'm not as familiar with the Greyhawk deities. I mean, Saint Cuthbert is a neutral good
Yeah,
deity.
it might have been Cuthbert, but maybe not. But there was one that everybody just assumed that they could just murder everybody that didn't freaking bend the knee instantly and permanently and devoutly change all of their ways and their own personal
Well,
previous religion instantly, or you just die.
it does boil down to context. And yeah, like you can have a lawful good crusader who's going after the heathens and the heretics, and they will smite anybody who doesn't convert. That you can still be lawful good and do that, but it boils down. Lawful good, you still merciful. If you're going
Well,
to
yeah,
execute,
you can't, because see, people say that they forget that they can handle the lawful part. Okay, I do this and this and this. It's the good part that they seem to have absolutely no clue about. Because you said mercy. Mercy is a tenet of being good. If you have
yeah.
no mercy, none whatsoever, you are not good.
Well,
Period.
part of the problem with that, I've noticed with alignment over the years, is good is so subjective, right? What you believe is good is subjective based on your culture, based on your personal upbringing, your environment, everything. And yeah, but what you need to do is, as the DM, you need to say, okay, here are some tenets of goodness that you need to prioritize. And you like it's like everybody loves the Palladium alignments because they've got a list of tenets. It's the same in D&D. Just give them a list of things that here prioritize these philosophies in order to be good, and that helps. That helps players. Like for me, I always tell you prioritize the concepts of being lawful, or honest, forthright, and charitable. Those are the three main tenets of goodness. And if you keep that filter in mind when you're acting, it helps. So you're honest, so you don't lie. You're forthright, so you're not cagey. You're straight up. Like, there's none of this a lie by omission bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're charitable. Charity includes mercy, right? In the concepts, but you help others. You believe in helping others, and if you leave it at that and go with that, that helps players understand. Okay, but this is the direction of good. Then you have freedom to work beyond that. Mercy is a concept you're going to. It's like, but I'm giving you, evildoer, a chance to reform. After that, it's the death penalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. That's a merciful, good way of approaching things. You heathen, you convert to my faith, and you will join in our great society. But if not, we will have to smite you. But even so, if I'm forced to smite the heathen that won't convert, I'm still going to do it in a merciful way. I'm not going to torture them. I'm not going to subject them to pain. I'm just going to end them, right? And that's a reasonable interpretation in a brutal society. So you got leeway there. So yeah, the idea of a lawful good crusader who's he's a religious fanatic who is he's on a crusade to convert people or destroy those who will not be converted to the one true God. You still playing within a certain set of rules.
Yeah, it's always that real quick, George. That was a Villains and Vigilantes campaign. I could see doing it. Maybe I could do a full on heavy metal campaign. That leans into comedy and the ridiculousness of the '80s era heavy metal. But back to what you were saying, Sean. It's
Well,
always when the bad guys say, "Okay, we give up, we surrender," and then they kill them anyways.
well, again, it depends on the context and the circumstance. A paladin who has the lawful authority to summarily execute criminals, right? You've committed a capital crime. I am authorized to execute you here on the spot. That's a lawful act, and the paladin would do so mercifully. It would be a quick, clean kill, no suffering, right? But he's done so lawfully, so that's not unreasonable, right? But yes,
Right.
if they're just murder hoboing,
Well,
okay, sure.
I mean, then why ask for surrender if you're just going to kill them anyways?
Well, yeah, context is very important. Like I gave you one example.
Yeah.
Okay, so they demand the people surrender, and then they murder them anyway. Well, then, yeah, especially if they're not necessarily criminals, they're just enemies, or the so-called
Orcs.
heathens who, whatever, orcs. Well, I mean, again, if you've promised, again, if you're good aligned, you honor your word. If you promise those orcs clemency, and if they surrender, you've got to give it. You can't just kill them. You violated word. So as a DM, you've got to figure out what are the consequences of that violation of that alignment, of that oath. A paladin promises clemency and then executes and murders somebody, they're no longer a paladin. They're done.
or
Right?
or knowingly turns their back so the other PCs can kill them.
Yeah, exactly. If they're willful in their in
Well,
doing
no, they'll
something.
say my character didn't know. I'm going to go over there, after the bad guys are all tied
No,
up.
that's fine. You punish that. That's like, all right. Well, you cease to be a paladin. You have violated the tenets of your belief. If you've promised clemency and one of the other players, I didn't make any such promise, and pulls out their dice, the paladin now has to defend those orcs, right?
Well, no, but it always turns. I've always seen it where and I've done it too, where the paladin goes off. Someone says, "Hey,
Yeah,
come
no,
here," and gets distracted. Can you help me shoe my horse or something? And then
you're
next
absolutely
thing
right. Players will try that bullshit, and you don't let them get away with it. That's all. You just don't let them get away with it. The paladin who does that ceases to be a paladin, right there, full stop, until he atones.
Right, but he'll argue that, oh, my character didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, clearly he did. Clearly he did,
no,
right?
The player
Now,
knew.
if the players, okay, so no, but again, you look at the context. If the players conspire, the other players decide to conspire and the characters conspire to do this behind the paladin's back legitimately, the paladin does not know. The player might, but if the paladin, and you have reason to accept that the paladin legitimately did not know and they worked behind, then fine, but the paladin still has to react to the fact that, hey, these people betrayed this oath. I promised these people clemency. Now the paladin has to react to the players who have now violated this, right? Have crossed this line. If the paladin then does, I didn't know. Well, then, yeah, it's the same. In the aftermath, you still have to react, and that can be the fun of the role playing game, because there's no reason the chaotic good ranger who hates orcs, and it's like, no, we got to slaughter them all. I don't agree to accepting their surrender, right? It's totally within character for him to so, all right, well, everybody's asleep. I'm butchering them. They're the orcs. They're filth. They're nothing. I hate them, right? But the paladin still has to react to that action. The ranger's not in the wrong, but the paladin can't ignore it. The paladin has to, because he by offering an oath to the prisoners, I offer you clemency. You'll have my protection until we get you home or whatever, because you surrendered. The paladin is now under oath to protect these people and honor his word. And if he fails in that because one of his companions betrayed that oath, right? But the ranger who forthright said, I'm not honored. No, I will kill them when I get a chance. But the rangers, it's on the ranger to be honorable about that, because rangers, well, at least in AD&D First Ed, have to be of good alignment as well. But if the ranger gives his word, I hate them, I don't agree with this, but you have my word, I will follow you, then he's given his word, right? So all that to say, whether or not you agree with my personal take on how good should be applied, is on you as the DM to at least establish the tenets that the players will prioritize for being good, and then you have a framework to work with. And if the players understand that, when they cross the line, they'll know when they've crossed the line. They can argue all they want, and they're free to violate those tenets. People are flawed.
Yeah,
People
like
are
I have
flawed.
Cal and Omen, a friend of ours. I have told him that necromancy in the raising of and animating of the dead is evil. In my world, my rules,
Right.
and he keeps
Considered
doing
evil.
it. He keeps doing it, but he keeps doing it to ostensibly do some good. To move things or whatever.
Right, and that's a great choice. So here you've got a character who is okay. So he's a good aligned character, I assume.
No, neutral.
Oh, he's neutral. Well, then he's neutral. Then whatever. Neutrals are they operate on a whole different thing, whole different scale. But let's say, for the sake of an example, you have a good aligned character, and even though in this world it's a taboo, it's evil to raise the dead. He's like, I believe I can do good with this. It's like, that's a belief system. That's a role playing opportunity. You got to still react as the DM. This is evil. You're doing this, and so there's got to be in world reactions, and even, I don't know if you use the rating system or not. Probably not. Not a lot of people do, but
I have I kind of use the Red Room / Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Evil, good. You start in the middle, and
Okay.
every good deed here, every good deed
Right.
So it
So
slides
it's
back
a
and forth.
character choice. It's a character choice he's making, and so you can that's an opportunity to lead him to a mea culpa where he either converts and he says, well, if being good means doing this, whereas I can do a greater good by doing this so-called evil thing, and he morphs into evil as often evil will. The ends
Mhm.
justify the means, or he has a moment of, oh my God, I've gone too far. Let me undo the damage I've done. That can be a role playing opportunity,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
so long as you're clear about what the tenets of goodness are, then your players have a framework to play in, and you can adjudicate from there.
Mhm. Yeah. For the most part, you know, skeletons are fine. Anything past that, though, is you're dealing with souls and spirits and unclean spirits and things like that. That's when you start going into the evil, as opposed to just being neutral. But he'll figure that out. If a player at the table uses the excuse of, well, that's what my character would do or wouldn't do, or didn't know uh, they are weeping, they're a weeping sphincter. It's
Well,
okay. It's okay
I
to call
mean,
bullshit when bullshit is stepped in. Yeah.
the funny thing is, I mean, it's a valid excuse. You are supposed to do what your character would do, but the problem is the people who use that line, "Oh, it's what my character would do," are usually doing it to justify bullshit. Whereas somebody who's just organically playing the character, they don't need to justify it. It's like
Mhm.
I've made my choice. React, do what you would do. I've made my choice. Whether you think it's an asshole choice or not is irrelevant. React to it. It's like I, as a player, am not going to take your reaction personally.
Can't
I get
scroll.
it.
What?
I get it. You are doing. You have to do what you will do. And if my choice is so egregious that your character legitimately we say, I'm done with you, shing, we're having at it, draw your sword, then that's the consequence. That's where we go. And I think a lot of players need to remember that. Now, if
Mhm.
you get the people who come to the table and they're just looking to cause shit, it's like, well, that's a conversation outside of the table. But at the moment, in the moment, you know, you get a lot of people complaining, well, the thief is stealing from the rest of the group. Well, okay, great. Did you catch him? Yeah. Well, then why is he still part of the group? The player who played the thief, who chose to steal from the rest of the group, is like, he can make a new character now because he's that thief. Even if you don't kill him, they just expel him because they're good guys. It's like he's now in your stable of characters. Bring out a new character. That's okay. The character's
It's
not
really
entitled.
funny though. Back in the day, that was like, when I first started playing for the first 5, maybe even 7 years or so. That was like that happened, and people would try to pull and get away with that crap. But after a certain point, I have not seen that happen even once in like 20 years. A player character thief trying to steal from the party. Hell, I even in Bloodworth's game have wanted to do that like on multiple times. And one time I did something. Uh, there was a monk character who placed some coins on a thing, and I walked up right behind him and scooped them up. And he
Right.
knows I did it, but he didn't give two shits because he'd
Right.
already
Yeah.
done
Well,
his thing. That
it's
you did what you did after I did what I did. And what I did was to put the coins down, and the gods saw me put the coins down. They know I did the good thing, and you just came along and had no effect on it because
something like that can be fun and funny and lead to things.
I
We had
even wrote it down. That I have his 5 gold coins in a special pouch. You know what I mean, on my sheet, just because I thought it was funny.
it's funny. Yeah.
Because I got to do it, and
Fine,
nobody.
here are the coins back. Stop your whining about your
No,
alms.
no, he did. He was really cool about it, but I think he also left the group, and it wasn't because of that. And that's the other thing, with online gaming and Bloodworth. That's why I think he's got 10 players in his new group because the last group that I was in, we lost more players coming and going than we had at the end, and I've seen that as well in my AD&D game. People say they want in, they come in, and then they're out you know, after any number of reasons, and I'm not going to even imply that
Mhm.
any of them are like not good reasons. If you got to go, you got to go. I get it. If you are a big gaping, and you can't hang anymore, that's fine. You got to go. If you disagree or don't get along, you got to go. You got to go. It's all, the reasons are kind of irrelevant, but the the frequency in which that happens is far greater than in person games,
Yeah,
and you
well, online is
you have
its
to
own thing.
you have to factor that in, and it's almost like Bloodworth's doing. He's actually hedging his bet by you know uh, allowing 10 people in an online game, which is ridiculous. If all 10 people show up, nothing is getting done. You know what I
Unless you're
mean?
super disciplined. I mean, it can happen if you're super disciplined.
Right, but
Um,
it's there will be
but
no
it's
role
stranger
playing.
randos. Yeah, yeah.
There's no role
Um,
playing. It's just here's the dungeon, here's the room, here's the monsters. Roll initiative. And just moving on, moving on, moving on. Because you're going to get one room a night in a dungeon with 10 people in 2 hours. You know, uh, yeah, his games are about 2.5 hours, maybe three on a good night, but it's like 2.5 hours. There's no time for any malarkey whatsoever. It's just you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, it all boils down to what you're expecting out of a game as well, and this ties in with the whole, it's what my character would do. If you are coming to the table and your expectation and everybody else's expectation is, okay, we are going to work together as a cohesive unit and we're going to succeed, we're going to do this, then yeah, I mean, I don't generally run session zero, but that is session zero stuff. That's like,
Mhm.
come to the table. What is the game? What are we getting out of it? And that's totally fine. When I hear somebody argue with what my character would do, it's like, yes, but what was the social contract of the table as well? That's
Mhm.
another part of that.
Right.
Like I said, I run my tables that it's like anything goes. Come to the table, be prepared. You make whatever deal and contract with the other players you want, but I will simply adjudicate your choices. And if you want, PvP is on the table. Um, don't take shit personally. If you're everybody's honestly and organically playing their characters and things come to a head, then that is the story. That's what happens, and I'm okay with that. And I think players who sit at my table understand that. We get the odd person who guests in that throws them off because they expect, oh, well, we're supposed to be a team. It's like, no, not necessarily. You're just a bunch of guys working together. That doesn't make you a team. Doesn't mean you're all aligned. And that's fine because that's the kind of game I like. And now the players will generally say, well, we want to do this. Like my Night Below campaign, my AD&D campaign, they have
Uh-huh.
all said we are all going to be good. That's their choice. I'm not enforcing it.
Well, I mean,
Their decision is they're all going to be of good alignment, especially since they're led by a paladin, right?
having run an evil game for over 25 years, something I'll probably never do again, especially online, because then you're just going to invite some serious jackassery to show up at your table and just torpedo the whole situation. Because anybody who wants to play
You need
in and
mature
all,
players, that sort of thing too. You need players who are not going to take it personally and who are all going to laugh at what happens when everybody implodes, when the whole thing implodes.
oh yeah,
Uh,
because it's going to. Well, it's not even going to implode. I'm going to hit you with every, law enforcement. Uh,
well, that's assuming they act evil in a stupid and overt way. You can have a group like my Night Below campaign started with an Assassin's Guild, and it did implode. Like the one character decided, you know what, I'm done with you, and locked him in a crypt and took off with all the loot, and that was hysterical. It was so funny. And everybody loved, even the guy who got locked in the crypt. He thought it's like he's a priest of mass. He's like, I applaud your effort. Too bad you're an idiot and didn't get away with it. But and then the Team Evil ended up, it's funny, the group, the players fell apart not because of the players' conflict, it's because of schedules. And the one player decided to bow to the game because he was new to D&D and he didn't want to devote his Sundays. And the other player, the guy who betrayed the group, he wanted to join the other group that was Team Good, so he made a ranger and rolled and joined the other group. And we were down to three consistent players, one of whom was a 50-50 coin toss whether she would show up. She was bailing last minute all the time. So I was down to two players. I'm like, all right, I'm going to wrap this game up. But it wasn't because they were evil. They were all having a good time with Team Evil. But they were a cohesive group for the most part because
Mhm.
they had a guiding force. They were all part of a guild. And the one guy who did betray the whole group for massive profit was a chaotic evil. So he's like, yeah, absolutely. This is my time. I'm going to profit. I'm going to make the effort. And it failed. He got ambushed, pure random encounter, random by a bear and mauled by a bear. And they're like, a bear. It's like, we would have got away with it if it wasn't for this damn bear.
That's funny because my Monday video is on random animal encounters because we do them wrong.
Oh, always use random animal encounters in the wilderness. Always. I hate it when DMs curate with nothing but fantastical monsters. It's like, yeah, have some fantastical monsters. Use a 2 to 20 chart. Have some fantastical monsters in the rare and very rare categories. But the common encounters should be animals. Ordinary run-of-the-mill animals.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that 99% of all animal encounters should be you watching the animals run away.
Well, but most of that will happen. Remember, a random encounter only happens like 1 in 10 every couple of hours. So, as you say, most encounters should be animals mostly getting spooked. But every once in a while, there's going to be an animal that might be aggressive or defending its territory or curious, right? And that's the random encounter check is for an actual encounter. You travel through the day probably includes all sorts of normal everyday encounters. Oh, look, there's a squirrel there watching us.
My point is to really sum it up quickly. Even lions and tigers
And bears
and wolves. No, bears are actually kind of the exception. A bear, a moose, a hippo, and an alligator. Some of those kind of animals, they will attack you, but most other things are terrified of humans and dwarves and elves. Period. There's nothing unless you wave meat, an animal meat, in front of them. They will never attack.
That's why we rely on the dice, because if we try to, it's impossible for everybody to be worldly enough to know everything. Not every DM is an animal behaviorist who's going to know that most animals are afraid of man and will bolt. There is some common sense, but that's what the dice rolls are for. The dice rolls indicate exceptional events. So the odd encounter where, we got a skunk here who will normally waddle away, has decided to aim his tail at you, right? And I've had skunk encounters in my games because they're funny when players get sprayed and suddenly they've got a stench around them. And how do you apply the stench? Well, they've lost the element of surprise wherever they go. It's like things like that can be very funny. And then we had a gnome in a group once who decided, I'm going to use my animal friendship and I'm going to make this skunk my companion. And they were going around spraying all their enemies with the skunks. So things like that can happen. That's why animal encounters roll. And yes, more often than not, they will turn out to be a big nothing burger. Okay, so you startle an animal, normally, like a deer, for example. Like you come across a deer. The random encounter table says you've come across some deer. And that's what morale rolls are for. What do the players do?
Well, I'm still bitter over a death I had to endure from lions that saw our campfire, saw us, decided to attack because they're a wandering monster. Before they got anywhere near me, I created a ring of fire around myself, and still the lion.
Yeah. That's bad adjudication to my mind, unless there's some greater force controlling those lions, obviously. But assuming a normal lion encounter, yes. I mean, I always default for all animals, and this is me, a personal adjudication, it's not a rule, but all animals save morale when exposed to fire, right? They got to make a morale check when exposed to fire. You wave a torch.
I wouldn't. It goes so much more primal than that. Animals that have never seen fire ever in their life have been tested, and they're terrified of it. Even lions and tigers,
Right.
having never encountered it, they instinctively know fire bad, run away, not worth the effort.
But we got to translate to a game mechanics. So, as you say, okay, so you've got that campfire, you've got an encounter of a pride of lions is out on the hunt, and so the first thing you do is you roll morale. Okay, so let's say they succeed morale and they come close enough to be a problem that the player's like, holy shit, these are lions. Then what are you going to do? Well, you grab the torches from the logs and start waving it at the lions again, and that prompts more morale. Like you will keep rolling morale, and eventually they will fail. But use the system. The idea, okay, something happened. Those lions were a little more aggressive. Maybe they were hungry. You justify the dice. Maybe they were desperate. Maybe they were controlled. But the dice said that these lions attacked. But you got to use the system. This ties back to our whole Brennan Lee Mulligan thing. You got to use the system. The DM just arbitrarily adjudicating that these lions overcame their fear of fire and decided to attack. Okay, well, that to me is not playing the game. Roll the dice to see what the morale is. And give them a penalty if it's fire, for sure. But if even if like the penalty was so severe, they only have a 10% chance of attacking. If that 10% turns up, well, that's the situation. They've overcome their fear of fire for whatever reason.
There shouldn't even be a 10%, but okay, let's say there's that. It was just a really, really bad situation because the remainder of the party ran up an 8-foot tree and lived.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, lions can climb, and 8 feet is not very hard. A lion can leap 8 feet, I believe. But yeah, but again, that boils down to not understanding the system and letting the system do its job. If he had just done that, the morale would have been failed most likely, right?
Well, that would have been three or more morale checks. Whereas I should have been the only one to survive because they should have taken the people out of the tree as food and left and said
so.
The guy in a ring of fire. I literally took an oil flask and made a ring of fire with a torch in my either hand, I think, or maybe even just one hand and a blade in the other. But I was
still attack you. Well, that's bad adjudication, right? That's just bad adjudication on my mind. But that doesn't negate the value of animals in an encounter chart and encountering ordinary animals during your adventures. And so many characters have abilities to allow them to interact with animals. Why would you take that away? Monks and druids. You want those animal encounters. Those animal encounters are gold to a monk and a druid because druids at 3rd level can speak with animals at will. And that is such a superpower. Most people sleep on. They look at the monk as they want to be the martial artist who kills with an instant punch. It's like, no, I think you're speaking with animals at will is your superpower. That'll save the day.
I know, right? I literally say this all the time. If I had 3 wishes, first wish would be that my dog could talk to me and I can understand him and we could have conversations. Because I know he's trying to tell me shit all the time, and he's been my buddy for 15 years, letting him talk, in his last year or two would be hysterical. But it's we do a lot of things with animal encounters besides stupid shit like that that bothers me. And I hope to enlighten some people next
even
week.
From a non-combat point of view, animal encounters are okay, groups running low on rations. Well, hey, there's some deer. Let's get some food or
right.
Information, right? That the druid or the monk who can speak with animals, they can get information about the area. Things like that. So
right.
Animal encounters are important, and they also give you the feeling of a living, breathing world. An ordinary world where little chihuahuas will come and scrap, will come and look for attention.
Oh, look at that. I mean, think about
random. He was a wandering
think
monster.
about Bard and the Thrush.
Yeah, Bard and the Thrush. Yeah, from The Hobbit. Yeah.
That should have inspired so much more of that kind of stuff going on in games. Nice, George. Not only that, but like the druid or the monk, even the ranger. I mean, because I if someone said and they're making up a 1st level ranger, hey, I want to know the language of the birds, I'd be like, you rock, let's do it. Can I speak with dogs as a language? Sure, why the fuck not? Because that's far more interesting than I have Red Dragon and Beholder and these other languages on my character sheet because I just randomly rolled. No, you don't. Nobody even knows what a Beholder is. Well, why not? Because I said so. Like in the game I'm running now, there are no kobolds, no orcs, and no goblins on my planet. There never has been. There never will be. Why? Because
Well,
it's
then
boring. I've done that. It's a
if
different world.
if they don't exist in your world, then yeah, obviously there's no language. If but I mean, again, going back to a system perspective, if the players have the option of rolling on a chart of starting languages and the weird outlandish language there, I'll allow it. That's what it is. Dungeon Minister, who is in my game occasionally in my OSE game, he rolled randomly for starting language. He got doppelganger, and it's turned out to be so funny because now in context of the game, there's a doppelganger. They realize there's a doppelganger in the keep posing as somebody, right? And they're like, oh shit, and it's like they're all looking. I was like, wait, how do you speak doppelganger? And he's like, I'm not a doppelganger. Yeah, that's what a doppelganger would say.
Right. That's hysterical.
So see,
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, uh, that's funny.
yeah, it's hilarious. It's all because we just let the system be what it was. But yeah, I mean, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with curating it. Like in Old School Essentials, you have a list of 20 outlandish languages that you can potentially start with, like Medusa. Like, how does one learn to speak Medusa? Right? Well, you justify it. Like the scholars and whatnot have negotiated or talked with or whatever they've come across it. They figured it out. It's derived from another language that was commonly known, et cetera, et cetera. But but there's nothing wrong with curating it too, saying, well, that list is a little ridiculous, so we're going to say X is gone.
Or it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, or it doesn't exist.
Well, let's not say it doesn't exist, but that there is literally no logical reason why you would have that. I mean,
Right.
I'm
100%. And you change it if you want to. I mean, but I've opted not to. I'm like, whatever. If somebody rolls it, if they, like Dungeon Minister rolls doppelganger, it's like, all right, he speaks doppelganger. It's up to him to figure out or justify why. We just know he can do it, and that affects the game. We've got another sort of subplot where people are now hoping to roll Lizard Man as their language because we've got a situation where the Lizard Man tribe is the key to solving a mystery, but nobody can speak to them, right?
Huh. I love Lizard Man. They're one of my favorite non-human races to play with, and there's so many, so many great tropes you can lean into, from Kull and the Aztecs and things like that, all the way up to Land of the Lost, for Christ's sake. If you want to go all slee stack on them, I've done that. Oh my God, I kid you not, in no less than 3 separate games in the last couple of years, I have described this cave, this ancient temple complex of pillars and a cave with 3 openings and a strange rune above the middle opening. Doesn't sound familiar, anybody?
Not to me, sorry.
Did you ever watch Land of the Lost?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, for those of you in the audience, it's where the Slee Stack live. That temple complex in the beginning of the show, they're doing the Marshall, Will, and Holly, and they're showing the land. There's this scene of this place, and it's a big like mound of rock, I guess, with 3 entrances into the front, and there's this strange little carving above the middle door, and that's where the Slee Stack live. And they never, you know, just stolen right out of Sid and Marty Krofft's best show. And I think Omen caught onto it once, but that was it. Otherwise, it's like lost on them. Rawr.
Rawr.
I love the original Land of the Lost. Absolutely hated the comedy movie. Yeah, same here. There aren't many things Will Ferrell can do that I enjoy. He has moments or had moments, but lately
I find him unwatchable. I can't stand him. I can appreciate his success. My ex, she used to love Will Ferrell movies. So he's doing something right, but I find him unwatchable. He's so surface level in his acting. The one exception to that is Stranger Than Fiction. I really love that movie, and I thought he was really good in it.
Which
And it's
one? I'm
like
sorry.
Stranger Than Fiction.
Oh,
It's
I
like
didn't see that one.
20 years old now. It's and it's like the director pulled the performance out of him, and I was like, well, that was a really good movie, and his performance
Okay.
was so. But yeah, other than that, I what was that the movie The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg? The opening scene of that was hysterical and had nothing to do with him. It was Sam Jackson and the Rock. Samuel L. Jackson and the Rock, I think, playing super cops. Watch the opening with them and you'll fucking howl, and then that's it. The movie's downhill from there.
It's funny you just mentioned three of my least favorite actors.
What, The Rock, Sam Jackson, and Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't mind The Rock or Sam Jackson. I can watch movies with them. But Will Ferrell,
I have watched movies with them, but lately,
I mean, The Rock
they-
is The Rock. It's like but he's got enough charisma that he carries it off. Samuel Jackson has a little more depth. And
I never liked him from the moment I first laid eyes on him. I'm like, yeah, he's gonna rub me the wrong way. I could just see it.
That's
And
fair.
sure enough,
Will Ferrell and Jack Black are ones I have trouble watching.
yeah, Jack Black. We used to enjoy him a lot, but not so much anymore.
In any case, yeah. So D&D, random encounters are your thing, and random encounters for the win. I
tend to use things that make sense to be there. I know everybody says that, but
well, yeah, curate your lists for sure.
Even when like I'll throw gelatinous cubes. I like those. Those are actually one of my favorite wandering monsters, and when it makes sense for there to be one in the dungeon, it's usually because someone created one to be the dungeon cleanup crew. Takes care of all the rodents and the spiders and the things that you don't want in your dungeon. If you're the mad scientist who created the dungeon, they're the cleanup crew. Wandering hobgoblin, guard patrols, love them. Things like that. If you're in a cavernous area like in B1, the second level where it's all natural caverns, and there could easily be little side tunnels and roof tunnels that come in for things like spiders to become giant spiders and things like that. Places where animally, insects and things like that can show up. Cool, but I don't have like I said earlier, like the random, displacer beast. Something would have killed it.
Yeah, but that's not on your list.
Or
if it's on your list, it's a unique thing. If they encounter it and it's gone, it's gone. Right? There's nothing wrong with putting unique encounters that will only come up once.
Yeah, you will see. That's the other thing. Everybody knows in my game, for the most part, you're only going to run into like the weird monsters one time. If you run into a beholder, you're probably never going to run into another one. That's what makes it memorable.
Well, that's part of their ecology. They don't come in groups, right?
Right. Well, so that we can, when they say remember the beholder, no one says which one. When they say remember the displacer beast or the remoraz, when was the last time you ran into a remoraz?
One rolled randomly in my second ed game 20 years ago.
Pretty fucking rare creature.
Yeah.
I've never seen one in a game unless I was the DM.
But again, in the monster manual, they have frequencies for a reason as well and rarities. So, if you're, again, you just stick to the system. The system does its job for you. But I won't curate, a 2 to 20 list with all unique and random creatures.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't even go so far as to do that. It's more like a 1 in 6 list. I like the simple ones.
Well, the
Because
2 to 20 chart is great because it factors in the rarities. Like very rares are going to show up on two 10s. So that's it's a 1 in 100 chance, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, the dog was at me because I got to take him for a walk. So,
Oh, okay, okay, no worries. We're actually like 39 minutes over what I usually do. Appreciate it, Sean. See you maybe tomorrow, or have a great weekend. Everybody else out there in TV land, thanks for hanging out. Love you guys. I will see you guys all
check out
tomorrow.
my new videos.
Absolutely.